Chapter 137. Boom. In midair, there was a loud explosion. Countless people's pupils constricted as they stared at the scene in midair in disbelief. Although Shui Kang's first attack was filled with anger, the first attack was usually not very strong. Therefore, it was not too surprising that Tianyang could block it. However, the second time was very different. At this moment, Shui Kang was definitely in a state of rage. His attack would definitely be terrifying. However, even so, Shui Kang's attack was still blocked by Tianyang. A level 4 Bright Qi Realm Cultivator can actually block the attack of a level 8 Bright Qi Realm Cultivator. Elder Wu stared fixedly at the shocking cloud sword Qi and the baleful blood palm that were constantly colliding in midair. He could see that the two attacks were equally matched. No matter the result of this battle, Tianyang will definitely become a genius legend among the major sects in the future. Elder Wu muttered. At this moment, Tianyang laughed loudly. I thought that a level 8 Bright Qi Realm Cultivator would be able to crush me. Now it seems like you're just SOSO. Tianyang laughed loudly. Hearing this, Shui Kang's face darkened. You were just lucky enough to block one attack. How dare you be so arrogant? Little bastard, I'm going to take your life. In the next moment, Shui Kang's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. A violent burst of energy propelled his body forward. In an instant, he exploded with terrifying speed. You want to compete in speed with my dragon-subduing steps and Flood Dragon's body? Seeing this, Tianyang raised an eyebrow and laughed lightly. He dared not say that his speed was unrivaled in the Bright Qi realm, but it was definitely more than enough to kill Shui Kang. In the next moment, Tianyang also used the dragon-subduing steps and Flood Dragon's body. In a flash, he appeared in midair. Boom! Shui Kang and Tianyang faced each other head-on for the first time. The ancient bronze killing sword was now covered by a demonic blood-red glow. Above the blood-red glow, there was a majestic, unparalleled pressure that suppressed Shui Kang. Tianyang was the Tianji Sword Emperor, the Emperor of Swordplay. The sword used by the Emperor was the Emperor's sword. The Tianshao sword was the Emperor's sword. How can this kid's attack be so powerful? Shui Kang's pupils contracted. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the killing sword and Tianyang. This sword is definitely a treasure from the dragon hidden ancient dragon's treasure. Humph, this kind of treasured sword will be buried in your hands. Shui Kang sneered. Then, the true essence in his body began to circulate crazily. If that's the case, then hand over the sword obediently. I might even give you a quick death. Shui Kang only received 2 words in response. Hearing this, Shui Kang's face turned gloomy again. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Baleful blood palm. Kill him. If it's still the same move, flowing cloud sword technique, flowing cloud state. Tianyang and Shui Kang continued to fight in the air. Relying on the powerful energy from the battle, the two of them were able to stay in the air for a long time. Of course, staying in the air was at the cost of consuming their true yuan. But to the two of them, it was nothing. At this moment, the people who were watching the battle on the mountain range were all dumbfounded. Tianyang was only at the peak of the 4th level of the Bright Qi realm. He might be able to stand out among the younger disciples of the major sects, but compared to the elders, he was still a far cry. After all, the difference in cultivation time was obvious, but Tianyang's appearance shattered everyone's expectations. He was only 15 years old, but he was able to fight against an elder at the 8th level of the Bright Qi realm. Blood Aura 8 consecutive strikes. Cloud Shadow Sword. Flowing Cloud Sword. Sword light and palm shadows continued to clash. Every time they collided, there would be a terrifying explosion. Waves of qi rippled through the air, as if it wanted to shatter everyone's hearts. Everyone's hearts were in an uproar. Tianyang's battle prowess had exceeded everyone's expectations. In the next moment, the two of them suddenly trembled and retreated a few steps. Their chests were heaving up and down. It was obvious that the terrifying battle had taken a toll on them. "Little bastard, I underestimated you." Xuekang's face was pale as he retreated a few steps. His body slowly descended to the ground. He glared at Tianyang and said coldly. Just now, he had exchanged more than 10 moves with Tianyang. He had used all of his strength in each move, but Tianyang was able to block them all and even had time to counterattack. On the other hand, although Tianyang's face was pale, his robes were still neat and tidy. The divine wilderness sky spirit art was circulating rapidly, recovering the true yuan he had expended. 4 ultimate chi Cs. The number of chi Cs was already close to the 8th level of the bright chi realm. Coupled with the power of the divine wilderness sky spirit art, if it was a battle of attrition, Tianyang was not afraid of Xuekang. Moreover, in the fierce battle just now, Xuekang had been slashed by Tianyang multiple times, but Tianyang was still unharmed. No matter how one looked at it, Tianyang, who was at the 4th level of the bright chi realm, had the upper hand. However, the final winner of this battle is me. Little bastard, you dared to kill my son. You will be buried with my son. Martial spirit, blood soul explosion. Half a step into the earth level martial skill. Blood soul handprint. Xuekang roared angrily, and the surrounding blood chi suddenly condensed. His true yuan boiled, and a strong repulsive force was produced, sending Tianyang flying. In the next moment, as Xuekang continued to form handprints, the monstrous blood chi also evolved into a mysterious seal. Seeing this, the faces of the people from the Lingyun sect changed greatly. This is the strongest move of the Blood Soul sect, Blood Soul handprint. That bastard Xuekang, he actually used a martial skill that is half a step into the earth rank. After adding on the Blood Soul martial spirit of the dark rank, its power is infinitely close to the earth rank. Elder Wu's face was filled with endless anger, but he did not dare to move. After all, if a martial skill that was infinitely close to the earth rank was used by Xuekang, it would definitely crush him. A martial skill that is half a step into the earth rank? Although he was sent flying by the sudden repulsive force, Tianyang's face did not reveal the slightest bit of fear. Instead, the corner of his mouth curled up. A martial skill that is half a step into the earth rank was undoubtedly the strongest martial skill for the people of the Arctic state. However, to Tianyang it was just barely acceptable. Since you have already used your strongest move, I will not back down. Then, I will not be a coward. Tianyang smiled faintly, and the killing sword in his hand exploded with a terrifying light. In the next moment, Tianyang completely activated the Sky Cloud Sword of the Dark rank. Sky Sword Technique, First Form, Sky Soaring. The sky soaring that had killed countless geniuses was once again unleashed from the hands of Tianyang, whose strength had greatly improved. At the same time, the Blood Soul handprint was completed, and violently shot out from Xuekang's hand. In an instant, the 2 ultimate moves that were enough to kill a clear Chi Realm 6th or 7th level powerhouse brazenly collided. Chapter 138. Boom! An incomparably terrifying explosion resounded through the clouds. Everyone was incomparably shocked. Heavenly Sun's sword was actually so terrifying. Everyone knew how powerful the Blood Soul handprint was. As the most powerful martial technique of the Blood Soul sect, Xuekang's Blood Soul handprint could easily kill any 7th level Bright Chi Realm cultivator. However, in front of Tianyang's sword, the Blood Soul handprint's power seemed to be greatly weakened. Since when could the most powerful martial technique of the Blood Soul sect be unable to be destroyed by the sword of a peak 4th level Bright Chi Realm brat? Unlike the others who were doubtful and shocked, Xuekang's expression became extremely unsightly at this moment. As the user of the Blood Soul handprint, he knew best what kind of technique it was. At this moment, the Blood Soul handprint was exactly what everyone expected it to be. It was blocked by Tianyang's Tianling sword. Furthermore, the boundless sword qi contained within Tianling's sword seemed to want to tear his blood-soul handprint to shreds. If Xuekong had not cultivated the blood-soul handprint for so many years, it would have been shattered by Tianyang's attack. This brat is just a peak 4th level bright qi realm ant. How can he be so strong? Xuekong screamed in his heart. Inner yuan surged out of his body to strengthen the blood-soul handprint's power. Otherwise, his strongest killing move would have been broken. I can't kill it in seconds? Tianyang's face turned slightly strange. Tianling's sword was one of the strongest moves he could use. Moreover, after reaching the peak of the 4th level, Tianyang's inner yuan storage had reached the point where he could use most of Tianling's sword's power. But in the end, he could not destroy the blood-soul handprint? 8th level bright qi realm. It is indeed the 8th level bright qi realm. It is still difficult to cross 4 levels to defeat an opponent. Tianyang sighed. He thought he could kill Xuekong in seconds. He did not expect Xuekong to be so difficult to deal with. If Xuekong heard Tianyang's thoughts, he would probably vomit blood and die. He had tried his best and was about to be destroyed. Tianyang was still feeling pity? He was a cultivator at the peak of the 8th stage of the bright qi realm. Not some random dog on the side of the road. How could someone at the peak of the 4th stage of the bright qi realm be killed so easily? Furthermore, from the looks of it, if a normal bright qi realm cultivator were to encounter Tianyang's sky-piercing sword, it would really be possible for him to lose his life. Since that's the case, let's use the dragon sword. Tianyang chuckled. In the dragon transformation pool, Tianyang had gained a lot. Originally, he needed some time to fully control the flood dragon body before he could use the dragon sword. But now he could use it. When the Earth Dragon physique used the Dragon Sword divine ability, it was the Earth Dragon King Sword. The Flood Dragon King Sword would be the Flood Dragon King Sword. Dragon Sword divine ability, activate. Tianyang roared as the dragon power in his body madly gathered. On top of the killing sword, other than the killing sword's own energy and the heavenly sword's strength, there was another terrifying power that caused everyone to tremble in fear. The dragon was the king of all beasts, and the dragon power was one of the strongest among the countless types of energy. The crimson dragon pearl in his energy center madly gathered, and an endless amount of dragon power condensed. In the next moment, Tianyang's aura suddenly rose to the extreme. "Old man, give me your life." Tianyang laughed loudly as the true yuan in his body surged. In the next moment, the killing sword suddenly spat out a ray of sword light. The sword light was completely formed by the dragon power. How is this possible? This little bastard, how can he still have such a divine ability? Seeing this, Xuekang's face changed. He stared at the sword light that was exploding towards him. This sword light, although weaker than the sword qi from before, was not much weaker. After using this level of attack, Tianyang should have used up a lot of energy, and should have been like a lamp without oil, right? How could he still have the energy to use this level of attack? Boom, boom, boom. As Tianyang waved his long sword, 3 attacks burst out. The blood-soul handprint that was crazily colliding with Tianling's sword also completely shattered. To deal with the Tianling sword qi, the blood-soul handprint had already exhausted all its strength. However, what about the dragon sword divine ability? With the power of the divine wilderness sky spirit technique and the terror of the 100 feet sea of qi, Tianyang, as long as he did not continuously use his killing moves, it was almost like a perpetual motion machine battle. Of course, the current Tianyang had already fully displayed his strength. However, with this kind of crazy state, Tianyang could at least last for 10 minutes. Let alone 10 minutes, it seemed that Xuekong wouldn't even be able to hold on for 5 minutes under the barrage of attacks. Tianyang is actually so strong, Yi Zhanling was completely stunned. He originally thought that Tianyang only had good talent, and that it was very likely that he would become the pillar of the Soaring Cloud sect that was stronger than him. However, now, compared to him, there was still a gap. However, Tianyang's current performance of crushing Xue Kong with a big smile made Yi Zhanling completely stunned. That was an expert at the peak of the 8th level of the Bright Qi realm. Furthermore, he was an elder of the Blood Soul sect. He was not a cabbage that could be found on the roadside. However, such an expert that he could only look up to, could only retreat in defeat in the hands of Tianyang. Tianyang, you've gone too far. Xue Kong abruptly retreated several steps and roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change, and he continued to attack fiercely. When you wanted to kill me back then, why didn't you think of going too far? Now that I'm going to kill you, you're saying that I've gone too far. Isn't it a little too late? Tianyang laughed. Hearing this, Xue Kong was incomparably furious. However, he could not do anything. He could only incomparably sullenly activate his movement technique, wanting to escape from Tianyang's attack range. However, what was Tianyang's movement technique? Earth-class movement technique, dragon subduing steps. No matter how strong Xue Kong was, his movement technique was at most of the profound class. In front of an Earth-class movement technique, a profound class movement technique would only end up being crushed. Tianyang, on the other hand, had cultivated the Flood Dragon body. His speed and agility had skyrocketed. In terms of movement technique, he had almost completely defeated Xue Kong. Bastard! Xue Kang's expression was extremely ugly. Then, the blood-soul martial spirit that was attached to his body suddenly fluctuated. Then, it rushed madly towards Tianyang. At this moment, Xue Kang's body was covered in blood. As if he had used some secret technique, he rushed up to the sky. However, just as he rushed up to the sky, the blood qi around his body rapidly weakened. It was obvious that using this secret technique had consumed a lot of Xue Kang's energy. You don't hesitate to use your martial spirit to stop me? Tianyang looked at the blood-soul martial spirit that was screaming miserably as it rushed towards him. He laughed lightly and slashed out with his sword. Facing this martial spirit that had already exhausted most of its energy, the Sky Cloud sword could almost swallow it with one slash. At this moment, Tianyang looked at Xue Kong, who was flying in the sky, and laughed lightly. The 9 hidden meridians revolved, causing the surrounding space to fluctuate slightly. Chapter 139. Gosh, what did I just see? Xue Kang's secret technique allowed him to soar into the sky. How could Tianyang know the secret technique of flight? Even if he had such a secret technique, how could he use it? Everyone was shocked. If Tianyang's previous combat power was enough to shock them, at this moment, Tianyang's ability to soar into the sky was enough to shock them to death. That was flying, not something that could be found on the streets. The reason why the Blood Soul sect had such a secret technique was because they had obtained a relic from 10,000 years ago. However, the Tian family behind Tianyang was definitely not the kind of force that could obtain a relic from 10,000 years ago. It was even more impossible for the Soaring Cloud sect to do so. How did Tianyang fly into the sky? For a moment, Tianyang, who was just an ordinary genius in everyone's eyes, became mysterious and unpredictable. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan finally smiled. So what if he was at level 8 of the Bright Qi realm? Even if he met her master, he would still be beaten up by her master. Master, you can do it! Ling Yuhan shouted. Hearing this, Tianyang, who had just used the secret technique of stepping on air, turned his head and smiled at Ling Yuhan. Then, he rushed up. This kid, how could he know the secret technique of flight? At this moment, Xue Kong was so shocked that he was speechless. Tianyang's strength was so terrifying, and there were so many geniuses in the world. He was unlucky enough to meet one of them. However, the secret technique of flight was not an ordinary rare item. Tianyang actually knew it too. Old man, I've said it before. Your life is mine. Tianyang laughed. Then, Tianyang quickly mastered the secret technique of stepping on air, and once again, he burst into extreme speed. However, the secret technique of stepping on air was like a water pump, and it was an extremely powerful water pump. It was constantly extracting the 400 feet of ultimate ocean of qi in Tianyang's body. In a short few seconds, Tianyang's true essence had already been consumed by half. After all, a secret technique that allowed a clear qi cultivator to walk on air was too heaven-defying. There was no harm in consuming a little more. Bastard! Shui Kong roared. At this moment, in order to use the secret technique, he had already used up everything he could. If he continued using it, it would be his life force. Shui Kong already didn't have long to live. Now, in order to avoid Tianyang's pursuit, he had to consume his life force again? If that was the case, he would die no matter what. Stop! At this moment, a deep roar rang out from the sky. A middle-aged man in blood-red robes instantly arrived on the mountain peak closest to the two of them. The thunderous voice of "Stop" came from his body. "Junior, I'll give you 3 seconds to return home. Otherwise, the Lingyun sect will lose a genius." The blood-red robed middle-aged man's face was covered by his blood-red robes, but his voice was extremely cold. A terrifying aura of true essence burst out from him. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed. He could feel that this blood-red robed middle-aged man was not a clear qi cultivator, but a transformed origin realm cultivator. This was the strongest person Tianyang had met since his rebirth. In the Arctic state, only the Wolf-Tiger sect's sect leader, the Bloodsoul sect's sect leader, and the Lingyun sect's sect leader and Grand Elder are origin realm cultivators. This person is wearing a blood-red robe. He must be from the Bloodsoul sect. In other words, the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect has personally come. Thinking of this, Tianyang's expression could not help but turn ugly. Although his battle prowess was heaven-defying, his cultivation was only at the peak of the clear qi realm. To be able to defeat Shui Kong was already close to his limit. It was almost impossible for him to deal with a transformed origin realm cultivator. It's the sect leader. At this moment, a trace of joy appeared on Shui Kang's aged face. With a shout, he charged forward. At this moment, Tianyang coldly snorted. So what if he was a transformed origin realm cultivator? He was the Tianji Sword Emperor. Do you think that with a transformed origin realm cultivator helping you, you can escape with your life? Tianyang's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, Shui Kong, who had just revealed a joyful expression, suddenly froze. It was true that the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect, who was at the first level of the transformed origin realm, had come to save him. However, he was still within Tianyang's attack range. If Tianyang wanted to kill him at all costs, the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect would definitely not be able to save him. Tianyang, what are you trying to do? At this moment, the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect's expression suddenly changed. He angrily shouted, "Junior, if you dare to attack, even if you escape to the ends of the earth, the Bloodsoul sect will hunt you down. You're still threatening me?" Hearing this, Tianyang laughed and closed his eyes. The killing sword in his hand, which was spitting out dragon force, flashed for a moment. Seeing this, the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect thought that Tianyang was afraid. He immediately laughed coldly and calmed the surging true yuan in his body. He did not believe that Tianyang would dare to kill Shui Kong in front of the sect leader of the Bloodsoul sect. It's been 10,000 years. None of the people that I want to kill have been able to escape. Die! Tianyang suddenly opened his eyes. A ray of light burst out and directly rushed into Shui Kang's body, directly freezing Shui Kang's soul. In the next moment, Tianyang suddenly circulated his true yuan and roared angrily, shaking heaven and earth. Sky Sword Technique, First Form, Sky Soaring. In the next moment, the Sky Soaring Sword, which had exploded to the extreme, swept through the air and directly slashed Shui Kang's body. Shui Kang's protective true yuan, blood qi, and the majestic clear chi stage 8 true yuan in his body were completely annihilated. In the next moment, Shui Kang's heart exploded and his entire body turned into a cloud of blood mist in the air above the mountain range. Shui Kang. Only when Shui Kang died did the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect react. He roared angrily, "Kid, you actually dare to kill Shui Kang? Since that's the case, you're dead meat." The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect roared. With him in front of him, Tianyang actually dared to kill Shui Kang. Compared to Shui Kang's death, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect hated Tianyang even more. Tianyang actually dared to disregard his dignity and directly killed Shui Kang, ruthlessly slapping him in the face. "Aren't you the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect? Aren't you very powerful as an origin transformation realm expert? This Shui Kang will still die for you to see." Blood Soul handprint. The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect quickly formed countless seals between his hands. A monstrous blood chi also formed the Blood Soul handprint. This move, compared to Shui Kang's Blood Soul handprint, was unknown how many times stronger this move was. Seeing this, Tianyang's face suddenly became serious. Currently, he was only at the peak of Clear Chi Stage 4. If he wanted to resist this move, he would have to use all his trump cards. However, at this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. Since when did the Blood Soul sect have the right to kill my Soaring Cloud sect's disciple? Surname Chow, we haven't seen each other for a few years. Have you really forgotten about your grandfather? Clear laughter rang out and resounded throughout the entire mountain range. Chapter 140. Chow, we haven't seen each other for a few years. Have you really forgotten about your grandfather? A clear laughter sounded out from midair. Hearing this, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect, who was about to kill Tianyang, couldn't help but stiffen. His surging true origin completely froze, and he didn't even dare to make the slightest movement. He was most familiar with this voice. The sect leader of the Soaring Cloud sect, Li Lingyun. Li Lingyun was the true overlord of the Snow Gale state. If it wasn't for the fact that Li Lingyun had been in closed-door cultivation for the past few years in order to break through his cultivation and advance further on the path of the martial Tao. Even if the Blood Soul sect joined forces with the other three sects, they still wouldn't dare to make a move against the Soaring Cloud sect. After all, Li Lingyun had broken through to the origin transformation stage a few years ago. After a few years, Li Lingyun's cultivation would definitely be even more profound. He was only at the first level of the origin transformation stage, and was absolutely not a match for Li Lingyun. Perhaps Li Lingyun's cultivation had already reached the second level of the origin transformation stage. Chow, why aren't you speaking? Joining forces with the Wolf Tiger sect to bully my Soaring Cloud sect? Looks like you really think that my Soaring Cloud sect is easy to bully after I haven't made a move these past few years? Li Lingyun's indifferent laughter sounded out once again. Subsequently, a black figure descended from the sky and directly arrived between Tianyang and the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and he carried a long sword on his back. His black hair was very short, and because his back was facing Tianyang, Tianyang couldn't clearly see his appearance. However, the majestic true origin aura on his body told everyone that this person's cultivation was at the Soaring Cloud sect. You! The instant he saw Li Lingyun, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect's expression couldn't help but change greatly. He looked at Li Lingyun in shock and couldn't even speak a word. You! How could you have broken through to the third level of the origin transformation stage? The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect was terrified. The third level of the origin transformation stage was a stage that none of the sect leaders of the four great sects had reached. In the Snowgale state, origin transformation realm experts were already the peak experts. In the absence of origin transformation realm experts, high-level aura realm experts were invincible. The Blood Soul sect, as an evil sect, had a notorious reputation. However, it had always existed in the Arctic country, and the reason for that was the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect. He was a rare origin transformation realm expert in the Snowgale Nation. Although he was only at the first level, he was still able to make the royal family of the Snowgale Nation and other powers feel fear. However, the difference between the Origin Transformation Realm and the Origin Transformation Realm was enormous. A martial artist at the second level of the Origin Transformation stage could easily defeat a martial artist at the first level of the Origin Transformation stage. A martial artist at the third level of the Origin Transformation stage could easily crush a martial artist at the first level of the Origin Transformation stage. Li Lingyun had risen from the first level of the Origin Transformation stage to the third level of the Origin Transformation stage in a few years. This cultivation speed caused the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect to be incomparably shocked. Only you are allowed to behave atrociously in my Lingyun sect after breaking through, but I, Li Lingyun, am not allowed to break through to the third level of the Origin Transformation stage? Li Lingyun smiled indifferently. Only at this moment did Tianyang clearly see Li Lingyun's appearance. Perhaps because he had broken through too young, Li Lingyun's face was extremely young. He was at most 30 years old, but his actual age was absolutely over 50. However, his appearance was still filled with the mature aura of a middle-aged man. If he were to reveal his appearance, he would still be able to captivate a myriad of young women. Li Lingyun, so what if you've broken through to the third level of the Origin Transformation stage? An elder of my Blood Soul sect isn't someone you can kill as you wish. At this moment, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect stared fixedly at Li Lingyun, then turned around and shot an extremely sinister gaze at Tianyang. This kid is a disciple of your Lingyun sect, and he actually killed Elder Shuekong in front of me. Moreover, I suspect that the death of my Blood Soul sect's Chao Kuangying is related to him. The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect said sinisterly. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression slightly changed. Although there was a gap between the Blood Soul sect and the Lingyun sect in terms of high-end battle strength, they were equally matched in other aspects. If Li Lingyun was thinking for the Lingyun sect, he might even hand him over. If that was the case, Tianyang would be extremely disappointed in the Lingyun sect. So? Li Lingyun smiled. His tone was calm, and it was impossible to tell what his attitude was. So, I request that you hand over this disciple of yours. He's only a disciple of your sect, not your disciple, nor is he your relative. There shouldn't be any problem in handing him over, right? Or are you saying that you want to offend my Blood Soul sect for a disciple at the peak of the fourth level of the Bright Chi realm? The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect licked his lips and said coldly. Hearing this, a trace of light flashed in Li Lingyun's eyes. At this moment the others had finally arrived. That's Lord Sect Leader. At this moment, Elder Wu looked in disbelief at Li Lingyun, who was standing between Tianyang and the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect. The sect leader of the Lingyun sect had not appeared for many years. But today he had appeared. Li Lingyun has appeared? Seeing this, the leader of the Snow Mountain sect, an old man at the peak of the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm, had a slight change in his expression. However, he immediately used his movement technique and appeared behind the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect. Sect leader of the Lingyun sect, this person has killed many of our people in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Therefore, the Snow Mountain sect also requests that the Lingyun sect hand him over. The old man from the Snow Mountain sect said sinisterly. He did not know the relationship between Tianyang and the death of the Snow Mountain sect's elite disciples. However, he knew clearly. The Lingyun sect was the Snow Mountain sect's greatest enemy. Tianyang had passed the 3 tests in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. He was extremely talented. The more talented he was, the greater the threat he would pose to the Snow Mountain sect in the future. Therefore, it would be better to kill him now that the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect had appeared. If Tianyang was allowed to grow, he would definitely become a great threat to the Snow Mountain sect, the Blood Soul sect, and even the four major sects. The sect leader of the Blood Soul sect, who was at the first level of the Origin Transformation realm, released his aura. The faces of the people from the Snow Mountain sect were extremely ugly. As for the person involved, Tianyang was not the least bit nervous. He only wanted to see what the Lingyun sect would do in this situation. As the sect leader of the Lingyun sect, what would Li Lingyun choose? In an instant, the entire mountain range became silent. The atmosphere was oppressive and solemn. Everyone's gaze was on Li Lingyun. He was the Lingyun sect leader. Whether or not he would hand over Tianyang was completely up to him. Should he hand over Tianyang and not offend the other two major sects? Should he hand over Tianyang and not offend the other two major sects? Or should he not hand over Tianyang and offend the two major sects that had Origin Transformation realm experts? After being silent for a long time, Li Lingyun slowly opened his mouth. A pair of sword-like eyebrows pierced through the clouds. A sharp light flashed in his eyes as the aura of a third-level Origin Transformation realm expert exploded forth. What if I say no? Chapter 141. What if I say no? Li Lingyun's voice contained a faint smile as it echoed within the mountain range. Hearing this, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect and the elders of the Snow Mountain sect all froze. They never would have thought that even with the combined pressure of the two major sects, the Wolf Tiger sect and the Earthway sect, Li Lingyun would still dare to give such a tough reply. Li Lingyun, I admit that your strength is stronger than our sect leader. However, don't forget that we are the four major sects. No matter how strong you are, Li Lingyun, you can't possibly be stronger than the four major sects combined. You're just a disciple. Li Lingyun, don't make a mistake. The elder of the Snow Mountain sect roared. Hearing this, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect nodded his head, his eyes filled with killing intent. However, after hearing Li Lingyun's reply, Tianyang's heart trembled slightly. In the face of pressure from the two major sects, Li Lingyun actually gave such a reply. It was obvious that he did not care about the two major sects at all. Although the current Soaring Cloud sect was strong, it was still far from being able to face the four major sects combined. Li Lingyun's reply was actually so tough and straightforward. This was somewhat out of Tianyang's expectations. Mistake? Hearing this, Li Lingyun laughed coldly. Tianyang is a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect. How can the Soaring Cloud sect abandon a disciple? Tianyang, since he is a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect, then the Soaring Cloud sect has the responsibility and obligation to protect his safety in the face of other sects. Forget about the Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect. Even if the Wolf Tiger sect and the Earthway sect are here, I, Li Lingyun, only have one word. No! No matter how many people you have, no matter how strong you are, as long as you dare to harm a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect and want me to hand over a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect to protect myself, I will fight to the end, Li Lingyun said angrily. The powerful pressure of the third level of the Origin Transformation stage swept through the entire mountain range. Everyone could not help but crawl and tremble. Hearing this, Tianyang, who had always been calm and only watched silently, revealed a slight look of approval in his eyes. Li Lingyun was not the slightest bit afraid in the face of the four major sects' combined forces. This kind of person had the potential to become a powerhouse. Perhaps his talent wasn't too strong, but with this firm belief and strong will, he would be able to go very far on the path of martial arts. At least, compared to most of the so-called geniuses that Tianyang had seen in his previous life, it was much further. You! The Blood Soul sect's leader and the Snow Mountain sect's elders' faces were ugly. They never imagined that Li Lingyun would be so unyielding. Facing the pressure of the two major sects, he actually resolutely refused. After all, they were all overlord forces in their respective countries. When had they ever been slapped in the face like this? I know that by refusing you, I will offend you, and even offend the four major sects. But am I, Li Lingyun, the kind of person who would drag out an ignoble existence? When the four major sects joined forces and took away the 20 spots of the Lingyun sect and you were irreconcilable. Since it's like this, if I offend you, I don't mind offending you even more. Li Lingyun laughed loudly. The long sword on his back suddenly trembled and directly fell into Li Lingyun's hand. At this moment, the faces of the Blood Soul sect's leader and the Snow Mountain sect's elder changed. Looking at the long sword in his hand and the boundless sharpness in Li Lingyun's eyes, they felt a chill run down their spines. Li Lingyun, an expert of the origin transformation stage, was enough to easily crush the Blood Soul sect's leader. Since you dared to make a move against the disciples of the Lingyun sect, then don't even think of leaving unscathed. Li Lingyun sneered. Hearing this, the Blood Soul sect's leader's face changed greatly. Not good. However, it was too late. A wisp of sword light burst out from Li Lingyun's hand. In the next moment, the sword aura split into countless numbers and scattered in all directions. Seeing the countless sword auras, the Blood Soul sect's leader and the Snow Mountain sect's elder's eyes almost split open. Those sword auras were all rushing towards their sect's disciples. Li Lingyun, how dare you! The Blood Soul sect's leader's eyes were bloodshot. With a wild roar, the first level of the origin transformation stage's true origin within his body crazily erupted as he ferociously charged towards Li Lingyun. Since you've already made a move, then don't even think of leaving unscathed. Seeing the Blood Soul sect's leader attack in anger, Li Lingyun lightly laughed. His long sword burst out with a shocking light as it charged towards the Blood Soul sect's leader. Sect leader Chao, let me help you. At this moment, the Snow Mountain sect's elder, whose eyes were also bloodshot, roared angrily as he pounced towards Li Lingyun. At this moment Tianyang's eyes moved. Seeing the scattered sword auras shooting in all directions, he came to everyone and laughed loudly. Lingyun sect's disciples, are you willing to listen to my orders? Tianyang laughed loudly. Hearing this, Elder Wu was stunned. As for the other disciples, after being stunned for a moment, their faces flushed red. In their chests, their hot-blooded hearts were beating wildly as if the blood in their bodies was boiling. Yes! With Yi Zhanling as the leader, everyone roared. At this moment, Elder Wu also reacted. However, he did not stop them. Instead, it was as if his heart was about to explode as the blood in his body began to boil. Then, listen to my orders. Target Blood Soul sect's and Snow Mountain sect's disciples. Kill. Tianyang laughed loudly. In the next moment, he used the dragon suppression step and directly charged out. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan, Yi Zhanling, Yang Xiong, Zhang Chen and the others all roared towards the sky as they charged towards the two sects' disciples closest to them. Brat, how dare you! At this moment, the Blood Soul sect's disciple who was fiercely fighting with Li Lingyun saw this and his eyes turned red as he roared angrily. Why wouldn't I dare? Tianyang chuckled lightly. Then, he raised his killing sword and charged into the group of people. You dare to be distracted when fighting with me? Leave this arm of yours behind. At this moment, Li Lingyun immediately seized the opportunity and slashed out with his sword. A bloody light flashed. This slash almost chopped off the Blood Soul sect's leader's entire left arm. At this moment, the Snow Mountain sect's elder did not dare to be careless. He endured the pain and turned his head to fight with Li Lingyun. For a moment, the entire mountain range fell into a frenzied battle. The small sect's elders and disciples were all trembling in fear. They did not dare to participate in this battle between the Snowy State's peak forces, and all of them fled without a trace. Tianyang, on the other hand, was surrounded by a group of Blood Soul sect's disciples. He easily shuttled back and forth. Every time he used his killing sword, more than 3 Blood Soul sect's disciples would die. The others were all bathed in blood and fighting. All kinds of true essence flashed between the mountain range. countless blood soul sect's disciples were all retreating and being crazily slaughtered. Soaring cloud sect's disciples, listen to my orders. Give me a big one. Tianyang stood at the forefront of the countless disciples. Looking at the despair in the eyes of the two sect's disciples, his whole body was filled with killing intent. Then, Tianyang raised the killing sword in his hand. With Tianyang's action as the call, all the soaring cloud sect's disciples gathered their true essence. In the next moment, a terrifying attack swept across the field and killed the remaining Blood Soul sect and Snow Mountain sect's disciples. Chapter 141. In this battle, countless people died. Including the genius disciples who died in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, the Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect lost more than 80% of their disciples. 80% of the young elites died. Even for the Blood Soul sect and the Snow Mountain sect, which were considered top sects among the 9th-rank sects, it was still a huge blow. After this battle, the Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect suffered great losses, while the Soaring Cloud sect became famous. The entire Arctic state was shaken. Like a storm, the news spread to the upper echelons of the Arctic state and the surrounding sections. Among them, Chao Kuangying and Duan Yiqing died. The Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect no longer had any talented disciples. The other disciples were either dead or injured. If they didn't do something soon, the Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect would face the risk of being destroyed by others. Moreover, even if they decided to recruit new disciples, how many people would be willing to go was still a problem. After all, in this battle, the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect had his left arm chopped off by Li Lingyun. He was severely injured, and the elder of the Snow Mountain sect, who was at the 7th level of the Radiant Qi realm, had died a violent death. In this battle, the most dazzling person was Li Lingyun, who was at the 3rd level of the Origin Transformation realm and whose strength could shake the entire Arctic state. That was Tianyang, who led the Soaring Cloud sect's disciples to kill the disciples of the other two sections. As the main characters of this battle that shocked the entire Arctic state, the Soaring Cloud sect's group safely returned to the Soaring Cloud sect with Li Lingyun. Out of the 30 people who went out, 11 of them were seriously injured and had to be treated. However, very few of them died. Only 3 of them died. A death rate of 10% was completely acceptable to the Soaring Cloud sect. Lord Sect Leader, you've been in seclusion for a few years. In these years, the 4 sects have been extremely arrogant. Without your suppression, they've come to bully the Soaring Cloud sect. Elder Wu said with tears and snot as he stepped into the Soaring Cloud sect's mountain gate. Hearing this, Li Lingyun's face also became serious. Humph, all these years, I've been trying to break through to the higher realms of the transforming Origin realm, but I've only advanced by 2 levels, and these rascals can't wait any longer. If it wasn't for me breaking through to the 4th level of the Origin transformation stage, just cultivating behind closed doors would be completely useless. I wonder to what extent these people would bully my Soaring Cloud sect. This time, the Blood Soul sect and the Snow Mountain sect have suffered great losses. For the time being, I won't need to go to them. However, for the Wolf Tiger sect and the Earthway sect, don't worry. I, Li Lingyun, will never let an enemy go unavenged, Li Lingyun said coldly. Hearing this, Elder Wu nodded emotionally. At this moment, Li Lingyun turned to look at Tianyang. This is the genius who shone brightly in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land and even killed 24 outer sect disciples and passed the 3 tests? Li Lingyun looked at Tianyang with eyes full of praise. It seems that bad things didn't just happen to the Lingyun sect while I was in seclusion. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled indifferently. However, Yang Xiao and the others beside him were slightly embarrassed. They really wanted to say that Tianyang was already in the Lingyun sect before he went into seclusion. However, at that time, he was one of the 3 great trash of the outer sect. Tianyang has just returned from the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, so he must be exhausted. Moreover, he must have made great contributions in battle. If it wasn't for Tianyang leading us, we definitely wouldn't have been able to inflict heavy losses on the Blood Soul sect and the Snow Mountain sect. So, Tianyang, if you have any needs, just tell us. As long as it's reasonable, the Lingyun sect will definitely satisfy you. Li Lingyun smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded, but he didn't immediately ask for anything. Currently, I don't have anything I want. Can I keep this request? Tianyang said. He had just returned from the dragon transformation pool. Apart from needing time to digest his gains from the dragon transformation pool, he didn't need anything else. Even the most important thing, the spiritual stones, Tianyang had obtained a huge sum of almost 30,000 spiritual stones from the disciples of the other sects. 30,000 spiritual stones would definitely be enough for Tianyang to cultivate for a long time. Hearing this, Li Lingyun was stunned. Then, he smiled and said, if that's the case, then keep it. If you need anything in the future, you can come to the sect leader's mansion to look for me. Then, Li Lingyun circulated his true origin and headed to the meeting hall with Elder Wu. He had just come out of seclusion after a few years of seclusion. Before he could say anything to the elders, he received an urgent message from Elder Wu. Immediately, he rushed to the hidden dragon ancient land. Now that he had some free time, Li Lingyun also needed to have a meeting with the elders of the Lingyun sect. Naturally, he wouldn't talk to the disciples. Regarding this, no one was unhappy. After chatting for a while at the entrance of the inner sect, they returned to their own residences. This time, the opening of the hidden dragon ancient land had given them a lot of rewards. They were all in urgent need of time to digest the rewards. Therefore, they couldn't wait to split the time in half and return immediately. Naturally, Tianyang was the same. However, Ling Yuhan was traveling with him. Master, you were so cool when you led us to fight. Since there were only Ling Yuhan and Tianyang on the road, Ling Yuhan let go of her worries. Ling Yuhan exclaimed as her eyes sparkled like stars. The image of Tianyang leading the group and fighting bravely against the encirclement of countless people had been imprinted in Ling Yuhan's heart along with Tianyang's guidance in the dragon transformation pool. In Ling Yuhan's heart, Tianyang had become an indelible mark. In the deepest part of her heart. Is that so? Regarding this, Tianyang nodded noncommittally. In his previous life, he had experienced countless battles, both solo and group battles. Although this battle had shaken the entire Snowgale state, it could only be considered average to the Heavenly Sun state. Although he had led the Soaring Cloud sect disciples to unleash an infinite amount of power, and other than the necessary injuries, none of them had died, which was enough to become a legend in the eyes of countless people. However, for Tianyang, it was not worth mentioning. After all, he had only expanded his advantage. In his previous life, he had led a few people to counterattack from a hopeless situation. By the way, Master, isn't your family from the Tian family, one of the 8 big families in the Arctic state? After returning to their courtyard, Ling Yuhan's eyes suddenly flashed. She seemed to have thought of something and asked Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, is there a problem? In a week or two, it will be the family competition for the younger generation of the Tian family. Master, you must be going back, right? Since you're going back, can you bring me along? Ling Yuhan gritted her teeth and asked. Bringing a girl home, the meaning of this was self-evident. However, Tianyang did not think of this point. Without thinking for a long time, he replied. Chapter 142. It's almost the end of the year. That is to say, the annual Tian family competition is about to begin. Tianyang sat cross-legged on his bed, but he didn't enter a state of cultivation. Instead, he looked at the stars outside the window and whispered to himself. After absorbing the memories of the previous Tianyang, Tianyang also understood that his current body had an awkward position in the Tian family, one of the 8 great families of the Snow Gale state. In terms of bloodline, as the son of the Tian family's head, Almost no one in the entire Tian family could be compared to Tianyang. In other words, according to bloodline seniority, Tianyang's position was extremely high. However, Tianyang's strength, before the rebirth of the Tianji Sword Emperor, was extremely weak. In the Sky Continent, strength was respected. If one's strength wasn't enough, they would naturally be bullied. Therefore, in the Tian family, Tianyang's position was extremely awkward. However, this was only for the upper echelons of the Tian family. For the ordinary disciples of the Tian family, they didn't care about bloodline or seniority. They only knew that Tianyang was a trash who couldn't even enter the martial Tao. Therefore, after Tianyang revealed his trash physique, the attitude of the Tian family members changed greatly. It was impossible to take the initiative to call him back, but it wasn't good to let Tianyang fend for himself outside. Therefore, Tianyang stayed in the Lingyun sect for several years and never returned to the Tian family. Coupled with the disappearance of the Tian family's head, the Tian family was an extremely strange place for the previous trash Tianyang and the current Tianji Sword Emperor. A few years ago, because this body was too weak, even if I went back, I would only be bullied by others. Tianyang said faintly. Between his words, there was no emotion at all. But now, it's different. Boy, although you're dead, others can't simply bully you. Your revenge, let me, the Tianji Sword Emperor, avenge you. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then, he confirmed the date of his return and entered into a state of cultivation. Now, although he had reached the peak of the 4th stage of the Clear Qi realm, if he didn't deliberately suppress it, he would have reached the 5th stage when he was in the dragon transformation pool. However, Tianyang's Jiao dragon's body, and a series of gains, had yet to be fully digested, so cultivation, it was necessary. However, it didn't matter whether this time's gains. In half a month's time, Tianyang, the Tian family's end family competition. The humiliation that those people had inflicted on Tianyang would definitely repay them one by one. Master, are you going to go back? Hearing Tianyang's words, Ling Yuhan was a little surprised. There's still half a month before the Tian family competition. Half a month it is. I haven't been back for a few years. I'm afraid I don't even know what the Tian family is like now. Tianyang smiled faintly. He hadn't been back for a few years, so the information he had on the younger generation of the Tian family was very little. Moreover, staying in the Lingyun sect was of no use in a short period of time. Therefore, Tianyang immediately chose to go back. I see. Ling Yuhan nodded, then said excitedly, Master, you promised before that you would bring me along when you go home. Of course. Tianyang smiled and patted Ling Yuhan's head, suppressing Ling Yuhan's excitement. Then, he took a step forward. My position in the Lingyun sect is not low now. If I want to go back, I have to inform the elders. Sigh, it's really troublesome. Tianyang sighed softly. It was so troublesome for him to go back home. Tianyang was extremely unhappy. However, as the number one in the Lingyun sect, if he went back without a word, the others would not know. He didn't know what those people would think. They had just obtained a super genius who passed the 3 trials of the dragon hidden ancient land. If this genius disappeared, the Lingyun sect would go crazy. Fortunately, it was almost the end of the year. Many disciples of the Lingyun sect had already returned to the family. Although Elder Wu was surprised, he immediately allowed Tianyang to go back. Tianyang rented 2 horses from the Lingyun sect and went to the Tian family with Ling Yuhan. To be precise, they were going to Yangtian City, where the Tian family was located. In this family competition, if there are no surprises, Tianyang, that trash, should be back. He's just a trash. How can he enter the Lingyun sect? How can he have such a position? The current family head of the Tian family is no longer here. How can the next family head be that trash? In another rank 9 sect of the Arctic state, a handsome young man muttered to himself with a cold look on his face. This sect was called the Purple Cloud sect. However, this purple cloud sect was much weaker than the Lingyun sect and the four major sections. They also had no share in the dragon-hidden ancient land. Since this cousin has awakened his martial soul and entered the martial path, he has to come to this family competition even if he doesn't want to. I want to prove to everyone in the Tian family that the number one genius of the Tian family is me, Tian Yu. The next family head of the Tian family is also me, Tian Yu. Not that trash, the young man said coldly. From his words, one could tell that this person was recognized as the number one genius of the Tian family. Tian Yu. Although the current Tian Yu was not the number one genius of the Purple Cloud sect, his cultivation had reached level 5 of the Bright Chi realm. He was only one challenge away from the number one position. To be called the number one genius of the Tian family, one of the 8 major families of the Blizzard State, Tian Yu had some skills. Let's go. Looking at the servant leading the horse in front of him, Tian Yu did not hesitate and directly stepped on it. Almost at the same time as Tian Yang and Ling Yuhan, Tian Yu also stepped on the road back to the Tian family. This was because at the end of the year, almost all the young disciples of the Tian family who were cultivating outside began to return. This was because at the end of the year, the Tian family competition would shake the entire Tian family and even the 8 major families. The Tian family was vaguely ranked in the top 3 among the 8 major families. With such strength, even the Xiao family and the Yang family could not compare. Therefore, the family competition of the Tian family was a big event that could not be ignored in the Blizzard State. Although the Lingyun sect was not far from the Tian family, it was not close either. Although the horses that Tian Yang and Ling Yuhan rode were of the best quality in the Lingyun sect and could travel thousands of miles in a day, the two of them still took more than a day. In front of the city gate of Yang Tian City, where the Tian family was located, which was under the control of the Tian family, Tian Yang and Ling Yuhan raised their heads and glanced at the towering city. With a chuckle, they showed their identification as disciples of the Tian family. Together with Ling Yuhan, under the respectful gaze of the guards, they stepped into the city gate. Chapter 143. Yang Tian City. People came and went and it was bustling. Among the 8 big families, the Tian family was in charge of the city. Yang Tian City was naturally much better than Yun City, which was under the control of the Yang family. It was also much more prosperous than Yun City. Master, is this the city where your family lives? It's so prosperous. Ling Yuhan carefully sized up the people coming and going in the surroundings and exclaimed in surprise. In the Lingyun sect, she was practically only cultivating normally. Other than doing missions, she rarely went out. When she went out to do missions, she could not stay for too long. After completing the missions, she would walk around for a day or two, just like how Tian Yang did after killing Lu Jin. Strolling through the streets of the city like this, Ling Yuhan had never done it before. It's quite prosperous. Tian Yang nodded and smiled. It's much more prosperous than the year I left. Ling Yuhan suddenly became silent. Although she had never been to Yang Tian City, she knew that Tian Yang was one of the outer sect's 3 great trash. Such a famous title was naturally heard by Ling Yuhan as well. Even the story behind the title, Ling Yuhan also knew about it. Tian Yang, before the age of 15, was talented and smart. In just a few years, he broke through the 3 realms before entering the martial arts realm. They were essence refining, chi refining, and vitality refining. However, when he awakened his martial soul and entered the martial arts realm, he was found to be born with defective meridians, spiral meridians. Born with defective meridians, he would never be able to enter the martial arts realm. After knowing this, the Tian family, which had no master of the Tian family, heartlessly abandoned Tian Yang and left Tian Yang in the soaring cloud sect. They did not care about him and left him to fend for himself. Tian Yang was unable to recover from the setback and became one of the outer sect's 3 great trash. Thinking of this, Ling Yuhan suddenly felt a little bitter. If she was in Tianyang's shoes, her confidence would definitely collapse, and it would be difficult for her to improve. Although she didn't know what method Tianyang used to break through the limitations of his naturally wasted meridians, she might not even have the confidence to wait for this opportunity to come. However, not only did Tianyang manage to wait until the right time, he even managed to grab hold of the opportunity and enter the martial path. After that, he quickly rose to fame and became the #1 genius of the Soaring Cloud sect's inner disciples. As a disciple, Ling Yuhan was full of admiration for such an experience. According to the logic of a normal person, Tianyang should have taken revenge immediately after he rose to power. However, Tianyang only punished a few idiots who dared to offend him and disappeared without a trace. Now that he was back in Yangtian City, the Tian family, Tianyang's face was still that calm and relaxed smile. Thinking of this, Ling Yuhan seemed to have tears in her eyes. She gritted her teeth. In the Tian family, she must not embarrass her master. Let's go. You must be tired after traveling for so long. Let's have a meal first, Tianyang suddenly said. Then, he slowed down his pace, turned around, and walked into a restaurant. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was confused. However, she didn't think too much about it and followed Tianyang into the restaurant. The two of them came to the lobby. The lobby was very noisy. After all, the end of the year was the busiest time for restaurants. After choosing a table and ordering a few dishes, Tianyang waited quietly. Ling Yuhan asked curiously, "Master, aren't we going back to the Tian family directly? Why are we still eating in this restaurant? I haven't been back for so many years. I guess the Tian family is no longer the Tian family that I know. There are many people in the restaurant. It's also the best place to gather information. It's not too late to gather some information here before going back." Tianyang smiled faintly. He had been traveling around the mainland for many years. Naturally, he had rich experience in such situations. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded her head. She was quite surprised. She didn't expect Tianyang to not only have a strong combat talent, but he also has a lot of experience in Jianghu. This wasn't something that a 15-year-old teenager should have. Don't talk. Listen. At this moment, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. The moment Tianyang finished his words, the discussion at the table beside them suddenly became louder. Have you guys heard? At the end of this year, the Tian family will have a family competition. Isn't this the usual practice? What's there to hear? Old Chen, you're so loud just to say this? A burly man said loudly. Hearing this, several people in the audience frowned. This was almost the usual practice. At the end of every year, the Tian family competition would be held. Everyone in Yangtian City knew about it. You guys know about the family competition. However, do you know what's behind it? Being interrupted by the young man, the burly man wasn't annoyed. Instead, he smiled mysteriously and kept them in suspense. Hearing this, several people in the audience and the people around them became interested. What's behind it? What's behind it? What's behind it? The Tian family competition was almost the same every year. Could there be something special about it this time? In this year's Tian family competition, the main geniuses, you guys know about them, right? That's the Tian family's #1 genius, Tian Yu, who is focused on training in the Purple Cloud sect and has broken through to the 5th level of the Clear Qi realm. There's also Tian Jun, who is at the 2nd level of the Clear Qi realm, as well as Tian Si and Tian Qianqian. Hearing the burly man's question, the people around him immediately listed them out. Hearing this, the burly man nodded his head and revealed a mysterious smile. However, according to the news of the 3rd brother of 7th uncle's 2nd cousin, who is in the Soaring Cloud sect, in this year's Tian family competition, Tianyang, who was born with a crippled pulse, will also be participating. What? Hearing this, everyone was shocked, like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Almost everyone in the restaurant's lobby was attracted by the name Heavenly Sun and turned their gazes over. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan also became excited. Master, they're talking about you. Calm down. Tianyang smiled. They were indeed talking about him. However, the content of their words wasn't pleasant to hear. That trash? Isn't that trash, who can't even enter the martial Dao and isn't even at body refining realm level 1? Isn't he not qualified to participate in the Tian family competition? My friend, have you been in seclusion for many years? I heard that a few months ago, Tianyang finally awakened a low-grade yellow-class martial soul and became a cultivator in the body refining realm. Body refining realm? Even if he's in the body refining realm, isn't he courting death by coming here? If I were Tianyang, I would continue to cultivate in the soaring cloud sect and not come here to embarrass myself. Isn't that right? This year's Tian family competition is even stronger than the previous one. Tian Yu has already broken through to Bright Chi realm level 5. Tianyang coming here is just a disgrace. Even Tianyang's cousin, Tian Chanchan, has reached Bright Chi realm level 1. How can Tianyang still have the face to come here? The name Tianyang seemed to have magical powers. Everyone stopped their original topic and began to talk about him. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan almost exploded. She almost lost control of her true Yuan at Bright Chi realm level 2. These people dared to insult her master. Who is Tianyang? In Ling Yuhan's heart, Tianyang was no longer just a simple master. He was much more important than her master. However, these passers-by dared to insult her master, Tianyang. Quiet, you've reached the Bright Chi realm. Can't you suppress your inner emotions? Seeing that Ling Yuhan was about to hit him, Tianyang frowned and said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan immediately withered. However, she still said angrily, Master, they're insulting you. They're just passers-by. Why do you care so much? However, that kid, Tian Yu, has reached Bright Chi realm level 5? Tianyang smiled indifferently. Then, a light flashed in his eyes. He stopped listening and started to eat. Chapter 144. After settling the issue of food, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan walked out of the restaurant. Ling Yuhan, on the other hand, had a sullen look on his face. Although Tianyang did not care about what these small fries thought of him, as a disciple, Ling Yuhan was very displeased. However, since Tianyang told her not to do anything, she did not dare to do anything. After all, Tianyang was her master. Moreover, Tianyang's strength was far beyond hers. If she made a move and angered Tianyang, Tianyang could easily suppress her. This is strange. Why do I feel happy when I think of Master suppressing me? Thinking of this, Ling Yuhan's expression suddenly became strange for a moment, and a thought appeared in her mind. However, she immediately suppressed it. Although she did not know where this thought came from, since it was strange, it was better not to do so. Master, are we going to the Tian family directly? I heard that the disciples of the Tian family are already on their way back. Ling Yuhan said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. If I am not wrong, Tianzhen and Tian Yu should be back. My cousin, Tian Chanchan, should be back too. If so, it is not right for me to wander around in Yang Tian City. Let's go. Tianyang smiled. Tianyang had some impression of Tian Chanchan. The two of them were like childhood sweethearts. However, after Tianyang left for the Lingyun sect, they never saw each other again. Then, Tianyang changed his direction and walked towards the Tian family. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan also nodded and hurriedly followed. When Tianyang talked about Tian Chanchan, there was a trace of emotion in his words. Ling Yuhan felt jealous. What? 10,000 miles away, in the soaring cloud sect. When Yang Xiong heard the news from another inner disciple, he almost spat out the mouthful of wine he just drank. You said that Tianyang is missing because he's going to the Tian family competition? Yes. Jin Xiong, who had come to deliver the message, nodded. Hearing this, Yang Xiong suddenly laughed loudly. This guy is really something. He didn't even tell us that he was going to the competition. I thought he had gone missing. Yi Zhanling, didn't you want to spar with Tianyang? Come, let's go to Yangtian City to watch the competition. Yang Xiong laughed. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling, who was drinking in front of Yang Xiong, revealed a bitter smile. He indeed wanted to spar with Tianyang, but that was before the bloody battle in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. After the bloody battle between the Soaring Cloud sect, the Blood Soul sect, and the Snow Mountain sect in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, Yi Zhanling no longer wanted to spar with Tianyang. Tianyang's strength had reached a terrifying level. After the battle in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, Yi Zhanling's strength had increased tremendously and his cultivation was about to break through to the Clear Chi Realm Stage 6. I don't want to spar anymore. However, with Tianyang's cultivation level, isn't it a bit of a bully to go to the Tian family competition? Yi Zhanling laughed. Hearing this, Yang Xiong pondered for a moment and then grinned. That's right. Isn't Tianyang called trash? Then, let's let those blind people from the Tian family see how far this waste has grown. That's right. That's why it feels good. After that, Yang Xiong and Yi Zhanling informed the other disciples and set off for Yangtian City, the Tian family's home. As for the other inner disciples, when they heard that Tianyang, who had become a legend after the bloody battle in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, was going to compete in the Tian family's home, their hearts were itching. However, they still had to cultivate in the Soaring Cloud sect. Therefore, they could only watch Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong leave for Yangtian City. They could only continue to cultivate in the Soaring Cloud sect. Is this Master's family? It looks so grand. From the entrance of Yangtian City to the Tian family's home in the center of Yangtian City, it was quite a distance. Although the Tian family was called a family, it was actually bigger than the governor's mansion. At a rough glance, it was at least tens of thousands of square meters. There were many buildings in it, and the biggest gate facing the south was a few feet tall. It was very grand. The size of a family's residence was also a means to show the family's strength. As one of the 8 big families in the Blizzard State, the Tian family naturally had to be grand. Ling Yuhan and Tianyang arrived at the entrance of the Tian family's residence. Looking at the majestic gate, Ling Yuhan smiled and said, "The Tian family's change is really not small. I remember that a few years ago the gate was not so big." Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded slightly. She felt a little nervous. They were going to meet the parents. However, listening to Tianyang's words during the journey, it seemed that Tianyang's father and Tianyang's mother were not in the Tian family's residence. After stopping at the entrance of the Tian family's residence for a while, Tianyang smiled and suppressed the memories that were brought up by this gate. He wanted to walk in. At this time, the 2 guards who were responsible for guarding the gate of the Tian family's residence looked serious. This is the Tian family's residence. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter, the 2 guards said solemnly. However, their hearts were trembling. After all, they were only at the 8th level of the body refining realm. As for Tianyang and Ling Yuhan, the former's cultivation level could not be seen, while the latter's cultivation level was at the peak of the 2nd level of the Bright Chi realm. With such cultivation level, at such a young age, they were definitely geniuses. If they offended such geniuses, these 2 little guards would not be able to survive. I am the son of the Tian family's head, Tianyang. Seeing this scene, Tianyang smiled, but he was not angry at all. After all, the family's residence was not a place that anyone could enter. After showing the Tian family's emblem with the word Yang engraved on it, the guards let go of the spears in their hands and welcomed the 2 of them in. The Tian family's competition was just around the corner. It was normal for the Tian family's disciples to not know each other. The 2 guards were recruited after Tianyang left, so it was normal for them not to recognize Tianyang's face. However, after welcoming Tianyang and Ling Yuhan in, the 2 guards suddenly remembered what Tianyang said before. The son of the Tian family's head, Tianyang? Isn't that the legendary useless young master of the Tian family who was born with crippled meridians, unable to step into the path of martial arts? One of the guards said doubtfully. At this time, the other guard was also puzzled. Isn't it said that he can't step into the path of martial arts and can't even defeat an ordinary guard? Why, I feel that with just one look, he can kill us in seconds. Tianyang was not aware of the two guards' discussion about him. He was walking with Ling Yuhan on the road of the Tian family's residence. Tianyang also introduced some things to Ling Yuhan from time to time. Just as Tianyang was about to return to his residence, he suddenly noticed that there seemed to be someone in front of his residence. Before Tianyang could take a closer look, that person noticed the movement and turned her head. That person was a young girl. She was wearing a robe from an unknown sect, but she looked at most 14 or 15 years old, maybe even younger. However, her chest had already begun to take shape. With this turn, her alluring figure was suddenly exposed. Her pair of face was extremely delicate and pretty, but compared to Ling Yuhan, there was still a gap. However, her figure was much better than Ling Yuhan's. When this person saw Tianyang's face, her big eyes were immediately filled with tears. Cousin, you're finally back. Chapter 145. What are you doing? Ling Yuhan was shocked when she saw the girl, who was slightly less beautiful than her, suddenly pouncing on her master. She appeared in front of Tianyang in a flash. Inner yuan surged in her hand. At this moment, the girl was also stunned when she noticed that there was an unfamiliar person beside Tianyang. Who are you? The girl immediately stood still and looked at Ling Yuhan nervously. Since when did her cousin know such a person? Judging from the aura emanating from her body, Ling Yuhan was at least at the peak of the second level of the Bright Qi realm. Her actual combat strength might be even higher than that. How could such a person appear beside Tianyang? Who am I? Ling Yuhan's expression became strange when she heard this. She then said, I am Master's disciple. Who are you? I am cousin's cousin. The girl puffed out her chest and said. Tianyang's expression became strange when he heard this. Didn't they realize that there was something wrong with their conversation? You are Tian Qianshan? Seeing the two women staring at each other without giving way, as if they were about to start a fight at the slightest disagreement, Tianyang could only cough lightly and interrupt the confrontation between the two women. Yes. The girl nodded and then looked at Tianyang with tears in her eyes. Cousin, don't you recognize me? Even though the Tianji Sword Emperor was experienced and knowledgeable, he was at a loss for what to do. In his previous life, the Xiaoyao continent was not bad, but he was always looking for people to fight on the continent. The number of women he came into contact with was very few. The only one he had some impression of was the Ice Emperor, who he used on Ling Yuhan in exchange for the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword technique. You are Master's cousin, Tian Qianshan? Ling Yuhan was surprised when she heard this. She did not expect this beautiful girl to be Tianyang's cousin. Ling Yuhan also heard in the restaurant that Tian Qianshan had joined a rank 9 sect and displayed great talent. She was Tianyang's strongest competitor in this year's family competition. Now, why did it feel like this opponent was no longer a match for her? No, she might not be a match for Tianyang, but for Ling Yuhan, she was no doubt a great enemy. I am Tian Qianshan. The young girl, Tian Qianshan, nodded. Then, she glared at Ling Yuhan. And who are you? Why are you stopping me and cousin? Hearing this, Ling Yuhan did not back down and glared at Tian Qianshan. I've said it before, I'm Master's disciple. Ling. Never heard of you. Seeing that the two of them were about to fight again, Tianyang had no choice but to lightly cough twice before pulling the two girls away. This is not the place to talk. Let's go in first. Looking at the two girls in front of him who were glaring at each other, Tianyang felt a headache coming on. He might as well try to remember. In Tianyang's memory fragments, Tian Qianshan was Tianyang's cousin who was very close to him since they were young. However, it was different from those stories. This cousin really liked the previous Tianyang. When Tianyang left, she cried her eyes out. According to the memory and now, Tian Shanshan was one of the few people in the Tian family who supported Tianyang. Now that he had joined a rank 9 sect in the Arctic state, his strength had reached the peak of the first level of the clear Qi realm. This kind of cultivation was not bad. Both of you be quiet. Just as Tianyang pulled himself out of the memory, he realized that the two girls in front of him were about to fight again. Since Master, cousin, has spoken, I won't argue with you anymore. Hearing Tianyang's shout, the two girls pouted and said the same thing. Then they quieted down. However, Tian Shanshan did not quiet down. After all, she had not seen Tianyang for a few years and had a lot to say to him. Cousin, did you come back this time to participate in the family competition? Tian Shanshan asked cheerfully. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. I'm already a cultivator. I have to participate in the family competition even if I don't want to. Moreover, if I don't come back soon, the things that Patriarch left behind might have been stolen by the elders. Tianyang said calmly. Hearing this, Tian Shanshan nodded. All right, cousin, I just heard that cousin Tianyu has also broken through to the Clear Qi realm. And Clear Qi realm level 5. Tianyu will probably get first place in the family competition this time. Tian Shanshan sighed. Although Tianyang had stepped into the martial path and became a cultivator, Tian Shanshan still did not think that Tianyang's cultivation level could be that high. After all, Tianyang only awakened a low-grade yellow martial spirit. Moreover, he only awakened a low-grade yellow martial spirit in such a short period of time. It would be good if he could reach body refinement realm level 7 or level 8 in such a short period of time. I wonder what cousin's cultivation level is now? However, Tian Shanshan still asked. Perhaps Tianyang could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. My master is at the peak of Clear Qi realm level 4. He even killed a Clear Qi realm level 8 Blood Soul sect elder. This Tianyu is only at Clear Qi realm level 5. How can he be a match for my master? And at this time, Ling Yuhan was finally able to interject. He said this in a huff, and the pride in his words could be heard with a single glance. This time, Tian Shanshan was really shocked speechless. The Tian clan was very well informed. On the third day of the bloody battle at the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground, they had already received the news. They also knew the two most outstanding people in the bloody battle at the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground. The first one was naturally the Soaring Cloud sect leader, Li Lingyun, who had been in seclusion for many years. When he came out of seclusion, he killed the Snow Mountain sect elder and the Blood Soul sect leader's left arm. The second one was the Soaring Cloud sect's number 1 genius, Tianyang, who led the Soaring Cloud sect's disciples to slaughter the Blood Soul sect and Snow Mountain sect's disciples. The Tian clan was very familiar with the first one, Li Lingyun. However, the second one, Tianyang, shocked the Tian clan. However, less than 3 minutes after receiving the news, everyone in the Tian family unanimously agreed that Tianyang just happened to have the same name as the son of the Tian family's patriarch, the nominal young patriarch Tianyang. There were thousands of people with the same name in the world. Although the surname Tian was rare, perhaps there was one in the Soaring Cloud sect? At that time, Tian Shanshan also thought so. However, Ling Yuhan told her that the most outstanding person in the bloody battle at the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground was her cousin, Tianyang. He master is so powerful. Why would he be afraid of Tianyu? You have nothing to say now, right? Ling Yuhan chuckled when she saw Tian Shanshan was so shocked that she was speechless. Tian Shanshan nodded and did not continue to speak. She did not argue with Ling Yuhan. This was because the news was too shocking. P.S. Tomorrow is the general examination for the author. I don't ask for any rewards or recommendation ticket. I just hope that the author can see a good luck in the chapter review or book review section before the examination. Chapter 146. After a long silence, Tian Qianqian finally recovered from her shock. Then, Tian Qianqian looked at Tianyang in a different light. Originally, it was just longing for him, but now, it was almost admiration. Seeing this scene, the expression in Ling Yuhan's eyes changed abruptly. He and Tianyang had been together for several months, yet he had not been able to settle Tianyang. In fact, there was not even the slightest bit of progress. How could he let this cousin of his interfere? By the way, master, haven't you been away for several years? Now that you have nothing to do at home, why don't you take a look around the Tian family? Ling Yuhan said with a cold smile. Tianyang nodded when he heard that. However, he looked at the surroundings with a strange expression and said, "That's right. I haven't been back for several years. Why is this place still so clean? Could it be that someone from the Tian family really came to clean the house of a useless young master like me?" Tianyang said. Hearing this, Tian Qianqian scratched her head embarrassedly. "I saw that you weren't here, so I came in to clean it." Hearing this, Tianyang was quite surprised. In the Tian family's impression, he should be a useless person. However, not only did Tian Qianqian have such deep feelings for him. Moreover, she actually ignored her identity as a peak stage 1 bright Qi realm cultivator to help a useless clean the house. "You have a good sister." Tianyang sighed and then smiled. "Thank you. It's nothing, it's nothing." Hearing Tianyang's words, Tian Qianqian's face turned red. If her fellow disciples saw this scene, their jaws would definitely drop. In the sect, Tian Qianqian almost didn't care about anyone. They never thought that Tian Qianqian would have such a scene. "By the way, cousin Tianyang, don't you want to take a look around the Tian family? I've been back a few times over the years. Why don't you let me show you around?" Tian Qianqian raised her head and asked. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Having a guide who was familiar with the Tian family was naturally the best. However, seeing this scene, Ling Yuhan pursed her lips but didn't say anything. She followed Tian Qianqian out. Since both of them were starting from scratch, they might as well rely on their own abilities. "That's the Tian family's cultivation room. Cousin, do you still remember the previous cultivation room? It's been expanded a lot, and the heaven and earth spiritual energy inside is more abundant. That's the family's martial arts field. There are always so many people. I remember when I was young, Tian Yu was beaten by you often." Tian Qianqian led Tianyang and Ling Yuhan were walking around the Tian families. She pointed out a few special buildings and introduced. Tianyang nodded when he heard that. Referring to Tianyang's memories, these buildings had indeed changed quite a bit. Qian as Tianqian. And now there are profound martial arts techniques there. Tian Qian, Qian walking to an open area, Tian Qianqian pointed at a very majestic building and said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. He still had the Earth-class martial skill, Sunset Sword Art, that he had obtained from the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. He didn't really need any martial skills. However, since Tian Qianqian had said so, there was no harm in taking a look. In Tianyang's memory, he had only been to the Martial Skills Pavilion a few times. Then, under Tian Qianqian's lead, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan walked into the Martial Skills Pavilion. "Oh, isn't this our family's great genius, Tianyang? Haven't you been hiding in the Soaring Clouds sect? Why are you so free this year to come back to the Tian family?" Just as Tianyang and the other two were about to enter, a sharp laughter came from the side. Hearing this, Tian Qianqian's face immediately turned ugly. "Tian Zhen, don't disturb me and my cousin. You've been bad-mouthing my cousin all day. Do you really think I don't know?" Seeing the person who mocked Tian Zhen, Tian Qianqian snorted coldly and said. Hearing this, the person who mocked Tianyang was stunned. Then, he looked at Tianyang's expressionless face and snorted coldly. "Cousin Qianqian, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't follow this trash. Humph. He's just a trash who awakened a low-grade yellow-class martial soul by luck. Who knows, he might still be in the 4th or 5th level of the body refinement realm. Even I have reached the peak of the body refinement realm. You're a cultivator in the aura illumination realm. How can you stay with this trash? Tianjin snorted coldly. Hearing this, Tian Qianshan's face turned even uglier. However, before Tian Qianshan could reply, Ling Yuhan immediately became unhappy and stood out. You keep saying that your master is trash, but why don't I see you challenging him? You're so dilly-dallying. All you know is all-mouthy king? Ling Yuhan sneered coldly. How can a disciple not care when her master is being humiliated? Although Tianyang's face was still expressionless and did not even bother to say a word to Tianjin, Ling Yuhan could not sit by and watch Tianyang be humiliated. If that was the case, Ling Yuhan would slap herself a few times. You are. Hearing this clear and cold laughter, Tianjin was stunned. Just as he was about to scold her, he lifted his head and was stunned the moment he saw Ling Yuhan's face. What kind of absolute beauty was this? Even the most beautiful Tian Qianshan of the Tian clan could only be slightly inferior in front of Ling Yuhan. Moreover, his entire body seemed to be exuding a unique icy aura, causing them to involuntarily look at him. However, before Tianjin could be stunned by Ling Yuhan's beauty for long, he saw Tianyang looking at him indifferently from the side. The expression on his face immediately turned into anger. This trash, how dare he look at me with such a gaze? Does he still think that this is 5 years ago? The most unbearable thing for Tianjin was that how could a trash like Tianyang have the qualifications to keep these two beautiful girls by his side? Thinking of this, Tianjin's heart burned with jealousy. Then, he looked at Tian Qianshan and Ling Yuhan, and a thought came to his mind. If he were to kill Tianyang openly, wouldn't these two girls, who had seen Tianyang's ugly state, throw themselves into his arms? Thinking of this, Tianjin's lips curled into a perverted smile. Then, he took a step forward and the aura of the peak of the refinement stage exploded forth. He could not see through Tianyang's strength, but no matter how he thought about it, Tianyang could not possibly surpass him. Tianjin sneered in his heart. This trash actually dares to look at me with such a gaze? Wait a moment, I'll beat him until he's looking for his teeth on the ground. Tianyang, let me ask you, do you dare to accept my challenge? Tianjin snorted coldly and said. Hearing this, the people who were pondering about their martial skills could not help but turn their head. When they saw Tianyang and Tianjin, their expressions changed. It's actually Tianyang? The person who had been hiding in the Soaring Cloud sect and did not dare to come back has actually returned? Tianyang, this trash is actually being challenged by Tianjin. I think he's either too scared to accept it, or he's accepted being beaten up by Tianjin. This trash, how can he be our young clan leader? He should just be beaten to death by Tianjin. Discussions could be heard from the side. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's expression turned even uglier. However, Tianyang did not care at all. He calmly glanced at Tianjin, who was opposite him. Tianjin felt a chill run down his spine when he saw this. What was going on? Tianjin's body trembled. Just as he was about to continue insulting Tianyang, he saw Tianyang curl his lip. Why wouldn't I dare? Chapter 147. Why wouldn't I dare? Tianyang's faint laughter rang out in front of the martial skills pavilion. Hearing this, the crowd was stunned. Then, they started to laugh maniacally. Ha ha ha. This Tianyang must be crazy. Even if Tianjin's talent was not as good as Tianyang's a few years ago, Tianyang has wasted a few years. The current Tianjin is already at the peak of the body refinement stage and is about to enter the clear chi stage. Tianyang is at most at the 6th or 7th level of the body refinement stage. How can he be a match for Tianjin? I think that as the young clan leader, he must have gone mad after being humiliated by Tianjin. The crowd laughed maniacally. Tianyang was the most famous good-for-nothing young master in the Tian family. Although they all knew that Tianyang had returned to the martial way, they did not know what level Tianyang was at now. The old impression of him as a good-for-nothing was still affecting them. Therefore, they had greatly underestimated Tianyang's strength. "Don't talk too much nonsense." Tianyang glanced at the crowd indifferently. Then, he turned around and smiled at Tianjun. "Are you going to take it or not?" Tianjun finally reacted. Just as he was about to mock Tianyang, he suddenly realized that there was a strange silence around him. Silence. Tianjun felt that it was strangely quiet. What's wrong with these people? Tianjun turned around and looked at the silent crowd. He felt that it was strange. Logically speaking, shouldn't these people help him continue to mock and humiliate Tianyang? Why did they give up after just a few words? Tianjun did not know that Tianyang's indifferent glance had contained an unparalleled imperial aura. It had directly stunned everyone's souls. Unless Tianyang had purposely released his aura for Tianjun to see, Tianjun would not have realized it even if he cracked his head. Even if Tianyang had released his aura to silence everyone, it was only because he had accidentally released a little of it. Catch. Although he found it strange that the people around him were silent, when he saw Tianyang's indifferent expression, Tianjun's heart was filled with anger. This trash actually dared to look at him with that kind of gaze and that kind of expression. He was a peak body refinement realm cultivator. It was enough to beat 10 Tianyang. There's no need to go to the martial arts field. Right here, in front of the martial arts pavilion, under the watchful eyes of everyone, watch how I torture you to death. Tianjun laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Tian Qianqian and Ling Yuhan also had strange expressions on their faces as they looked at Tianjun with pity. Tianjun was the #1 genius of the Lingyun sect, who had created a legend in the bloody battle at the Hidden Dragon ancient land. Yet, he still did not know about him and spoke arrogantly. He didn't know if he was stupid or stupid. At this moment, Tianyang smiled faintly and took a few steps back together with Tianjun to create a space for the battle. At this moment, the people around them had all come to their senses. They no longer cared about the strange scene from before as they all looked at Tianyang and Tianjun with mocking eyes. Tianyang looked at Tianjun indifferently and did not say a word. To him, Tianjun was just an ignorant clown. If Ling Yuhan and Tian Qianqian had not been humiliated with the Tianji Sword Emperor's arrogance, he would not even look at a small fry like Tianjun. "Humph, not talking? If you don't talk, I'll beat you until you can't talk." Intermediate yellow rank, Lion Tiger Fist. Tianjun roared furiously as the true yuan of the peak body refinement realm circulated rapidly and condensed on his fist. The moment the Lion Tiger Fist was unleashed, it was as if the roars of a lion and a tiger could be heard. Behind Tianjun, the shadows of 2 lions and tigers appeared. Compared to Bai Lu, he was much stronger. It seems that although Tianjun is mentally retarded, his cultivation talent is much better than Bai Lu's. Looking at the almost solid shadows of the lion and tiger, Tianyang was shocked. However, he did not pay much attention to it. After all, Tianjun was just a body refinement realm cultivator who had just touched the 2nd stage of his cultivation. To the current Tianyang, Tianjun was not much stronger than an ant. It's the Lion Tiger Fist. Young Master Tianjun is best at the Lion Tiger Fist. Among all the martial techniques that a body refinement realm cultivator can cultivate, the Lion Tiger Fist is definitely the most ferocious and domineering one. At this moment, seeing the almost solid shadows of the lion and tiger, the crowd gasped in surprise. Young Master Tianjun has cultivated the Lion Tiger Fist to an extremely high level. Don't you think it's a little overkill to deal with a piece of trash? Idiot. This is a lion using its full strength to catch a rabbit. However, young Master Tianjun has indeed wasted a lot of true yuan using this move. The crowd gasped in surprise and broke out into discussions. However, these discussions and words were full of contempt and disdain for Tianyang. When Tianjin heard these exclamations, his lips curled into a savage smile. Ha ha! Even the others are supporting me. Tianyang, if you cripple your own cultivation now, kneel on the ground, and hand over the position of young clan leader, I, Tianjin, might just spare your life. Tianjin laughed maniacally. He had not finished accumulating power for this punch, but he could already see Tianyang begging for his life after being severely injured by his punch. Tianjin narrowed his eyes, as if he was still thinking about how to deal with Tian Qianqian and Ling Yuhan after Tianyang's defeat. I've heard these words so many times that I've grown calluses. Tianyang's calm voice rang out. Hearing this, Tianjin immediately snapped out of his fantasy. His eyes flashed fiercely. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not showing mercy. Go to hell! Tianjin roared. In the next moment, the lion and tiger shadows roared at the sky at the same time. Tianjin gathered all the true origin in his body into his fist and charged towards Tianyang. Tianyang, on the other hand, still had not taken out his sword. Lion-tiger fist, kill! Tianjin roared. At this moment, Tianyang raised his eyelids, and a trace of true origin gathered on his fist. Tong Ming fist. Tianyang softly spat out these 3 words. The Tong Ming fist, which contained 3 layers of hidden power, collided with the lion-tiger fist. The first layer of hidden power tore the lion and tiger shadows apart and shattered Tianjin's lion-tiger fist. The second layer of hidden power shattered the martial soul shield that Tianjin had summoned out of fear and scattered the power of his martial soul. The third layer of hidden power turned Tianjin's true origin into dust. Then, the final layer of hidden power landed on Tianjin's chest. Tianjin spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a cannonball. He crashed heavily into the wall and fell unconscious. When the crowd saw Tianjin, who had been sent flying by Tianyang's punch, lying unconscious on the ground like a dead dog, they all swallowed their saliva. Chapter 148. It was just one punch. Previously, Tianjin had been provoking Tianyang in a frenzy, as if the heavens were his number 2. But now, with a single punch from Tianyang, Tianjin was sent flying with blood spurting out of his mouth. He collapsed to the ground like a dead dog. If it wasn't for his pale face and the barely detectable aura, everyone would have thought that Tianyang had killed Tianjin with one punch. In fact, Tianyang could have done it. Everyone was so shocked that they were speechless. Looking at Tianyang's calm face, it was as if he didn't care that Tianjin was killed by him with one punch. Their hearts were in turmoil. Was this still the trash heavenly son that they knew, the one that others called trash? The strength that killed Tianjin, who was at the peak of the body refinement realm, was at least half a step into the enlightened Qi realm. For someone of Tianyang's age, the enlightened Qi realm was already considered a genius. For Tianyang to be half a step into the enlightened Qi realm, he was even stronger than Tianyu, who was only at the 5th level of the enlightened Qi realm at the age of 17. Cousin Tianyang is actually so strong? Behind Tianyang, Tian Qianqian looked at Tianyang's back in shock. His thin body seemed to contain an explosive strength that could kill a real dragon. His back view was mesmerizing. Previously, when Ling Yuhan said that Tianyang was the most dazzling genius in the hidden dragon ancient land, Tian Qianqian was still doubtful. Although Ling Yuhan was a member of the Lingyun sect, and his words were very trustworthy, Tian Qianqian still did not really believe what she heard. After all, Tianyang's reputation as trash was much greater than Tianyang's reputation as a genius. However, Tianyang's performance made Tian Qianqian understand. Tianyang was the number 1 genius among the younger generation of the Soaring Cloud sect, who had suppressed all the other geniuses in the hidden dragon ancient land. Of course, how could my master be weak? TSK, master still showed mercy. If not for the fact that this guy is from the same family as master, he would have killed him. Ling Yuhan curled her lips and said. Ling Yuhan was extremely displeased with Tianjin. If Tianyang had not accepted the challenge before her, Ling Yuhan would not have been able to resist drawing her sword and insta-killing Tianjin. However, from the looks of it, Tianyang's decision was more correct. If she really killed Tianjin, the elders of the Tian family, who looked down on Tianyang, would definitely not let go of this opportunity and expel Tianyang from the Tian family. After all, Tianyang was the true son of the Tian family's head. As long as Tianyang was not dead, Tianyang would be the rightful heir of the Tian family. The current acting head of the Tian family was Tian Yu's father. He also had some friendship with Tianjin's father. That was why Tian Yu and Tianjin were doing everything they could to deal with Tianyang and prevent him from inheriting the position of the head of the Tian family. The Tian family was one of the top 3 families in the Snow Gale state. Once he became the head of the Tian family, not only would he have great power, but he would also have the ability to directly distribute most of the cultivation resources in the Snow Gale state. The most important thing for a person's cultivation was naturally cultivation resources. For example, spiritual stones. Take Tianyang as an example. In the Heaven continent, apart from some places that could satisfy Tianyang's cultivation needs, Tianyang had to use spiritual stones to cultivate in other places. Spiritual stones were the gathering of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. If used to cultivate, Tianyang's true origin could be replenished. If he used the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to cultivate, he didn't know how long it would take for him to level up. Once he became the head of the Tian family, he wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources anymore. This was also the reason why Tian Yu was so obsessed with the position of the head of the Tian family. Tianyang knew that the real culprit behind the death of this body, the previous Tianyang, might be either Tian Yu or Tianjin. However, Tianyang didn't want to care too much about this. After all, in the eyes of the Tianji Sword Emperor, the Tian family was just a passerby on his road to power. After completing the Tian family competition and resolving the final obsession of this body, the relationship between Tianyang and the Tian family could be considered severed. Qianqian, if you want to go to the Martial Skills Pavilion, let Yuhan accompany you. I don't want to stay here any longer. Tianyang turned around and said to Tian Qianqian. The Martial Skills Pavilion wasn't interesting to him. He had a lot of martial skills in his hands. There was no lack of heaven rank and earth rank martial skills that were almost legendary items in the Arctic state. The Tian family's Martial Skills Pavilion might be good, but it was still too weak for the Tianji Sword Emperor. If Tianyang had the time, he might as well cultivate the 9 refined dragon body, or learn the Void Step secret technique, or directly increase his cultivation. Ah! Hearing Tianyang's words, Tian Qianqian was stunned. Then, she hurriedly followed him. Since cousin isn't going, I won't go either. The martial skills I have can be cultivated for a while. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Just as he was about to leave, a cold voice came from the side. Tianyang, you injured Tianjin and made it impossible for him to participate in the family competition. Are you thinking of leaving just like that? At this moment, a cold voice came from the Martial Skills Pavilion. A handsome young man wearing the purple cloud sex robes walked out of the pavilion. His eyes looked coldly at Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and turned around. At this moment, when the young man appeared, the crowd gasped. This person was not someone that Tianjin, who was only at the peak of the body refinement realm, could compare to. He was the Tian family's #1 genius. At the age of 17, he had already reached the 5th level of the Bright Qi realm, Tian Yu. Tian Yu actually appeared. I heard that Tian Yu not only has a good relationship with Tianjin, but also has many aspirations for the position of family head. Now, the real young family head has returned. These two people will definitely have a fierce battle. I wonder if Tianyang, the young family head, or Tianyu, the #1 genius, is stronger. Of course it's Tianyu. Tianyu has reached the 5th level of the Bright Qi realm. Even if Tianyang could easily defeat Tianjin, he would at most be at the 1st or 2nd level of the Bright Qi realm. Definitely not a match for Tianyu. Just as Tianyu appeared before everyone's eyes, the crowd broke out into discussions. Hearing this, Tianyang narrowed his eyes. Tianyu came in front of Tianyang and said angrily, Tianyang, as the young family head, you should be the leader of the Tian family and unite the family to fight against the enemy. But what did you do the moment you returned? Cousin Tianjun only had a small argument with you. How could you do this to him? Because of you, Tianjun could not participate in the family competition. Tianyang, how should you be punished? Tianyu said angrily. His face was full of righteousness, as if he was really angry because of Tianjun. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Tianyang, now that you have just returned, using your position as the young family head, if you confess to the elders in time and compensate cousin Tianjun for his loss, you might be able to get cousin Tianjun's forgiveness. What are you still standing here for? Do you really think that just because you are the young family head, you can do whatever you want and not put the family in your eyes? Tianyu's tone was full of anger as he shouted. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed dangerously. Tianyu was indeed the #1 genius of the Tian family. Not only was he strong, but his wishful thinking was also well thought out. Chapter 149. Tianyang sneered inwardly as he looked at Tianyu's angry face, as if he was really fighting for justice for Tianjin. Who was he? He was the Tianji Sword Emperor of the carefree continent 10,000 years ago. What kind of situation had he not encountered during his growth? Tianyu might have some tricks up his sleeve, but his acting skills were a little too bad. He pretended to be sanctimonious and stood on the moral high ground while constantly slandering Tianyang. His words, coupled with his expression, directly pushed Tianyang to the opposite side of the crowd. After all, a second-generation official who used his power to bully others was definitely not a member of the crowd. After dealing with Tianyang, Tianyu gained the crowd's trust because of his righteous words. He had laid the foundation for snatching Tianyang's position as the junior patriarch. It had to be said that this method was really impressive. If it was the Tianyang from before, even if he was not crippled, he would not have been able to withstand it. However, the Tianyang now was not the Tianyang who could be easily poisoned to death. He was the Tianji Sword Emperor. Tianyang, why aren't you saying anything? Hurry up and apologize to the elders and compensate cousin Tianjin. Even if cousin Tianjin's talent is not as good as yours, he is still the future mainstay of the Tian family. Are you really so cruel that you would cripple the mainstay of the Tian family just because of a little quarrel? Tianyu looked at the calm Tianyang and said angrily. His dignified, righteous, and sanctimonious appearance really raised some doubts in the crowd. However, as the person who said those words, Tianyu began to have doubts in his heart. Tianyang did not look like a person with rich life experience. This method was taught to him by his father, the Tian family's first elder. According to the first elder, Tianyang would definitely be furious. He would either argue or fight. If they were to argue, Tianyu would definitely be able to convince Tianyang that he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. If they were to fight, that would be even better. If he was angry out of humiliation and fought with the Tian family's #1 genius, what was he if not a good-for-nothing who did not have the ability to inherit the position of the patriarch? However, Tianyang's reaction greatly exceeded Tianyu and the first elder's expectations. Tianyang did not say anything. However, the crowd's reaction was within Tianyu's expectations. That's right. No matter what, Tianjin is still a member of the Tian family. The Tian family's future is the Tian family's future. Tianyang is actually so cruel and merciless. Just because of a few words, he beat someone into such a state. Such a person is actually our Tian family's young patriarch? Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. Tianyang's eyes. He did not believe that the 15-year-old Tianyang would not take any action after being slandered by the crowd. The crowd continued to discuss, and it seemed like they were leaning towards Tianyu's side. Under the manipulation of the first elders people, the situation was extremely unfavorable for Tianyang. Tian Qianqian and Ling Yuhan, who stood at the side, had anxious expressions on their faces. Even though they were unable to discern exactly what Tianyu was up to, they knew. Tianyang was definitely not the kind of person Tianyu was talking about. However, Tianyang still stood where he was and looked at Tianyu quietly. His black eyes seemed to contain a bottomless abyss. Tianyu was terrified just by looking at them. What kind of medicine did Tianyang take? If that's what you think, then do as you please. Those who are innocent will be innocent. Tianyang smiled faintly and left without looking back. Tianyu was stunned. Tian Qianqian and Ling Yuhan were stunned. The crowd was also stunned. They had imagined Tianyang's reaction, but no matter how they thought about it, they did not expect Tianyang to only say one sentence. Tianyu's face was extremely ugly. Tianyang's reaction made him feel like he had punched cotton. How could Tianyang be so calm in the face of such slander? When the crowd saw this, they were stunned and looked at each other. Why did Tianyang have such a reaction? Could it be that what Tianyu said was really what Tianyang said? Those who are innocent will be innocent, and those who are innocent will be innocent? Damn it. Tianyang, I haven't seen him for a few years. How did he grow so much? Tianyu gritted his teeth and stared at Tianyang's back. However, in the Sky Continent, strength is everything. I just killed a weakling from Tianjin. At most, he is at stage 1 of the Bright Qi realm. At the end of the year, I will let everyone know who is the real candidate to inherit the head of the Tian family. Tianyu's heart was burning with anger. He forcefully suppressed his impulse to fight with Tianyang. He waved his sleeves and left. When the crowd saw that the two key figures of the Tian family had left, they dispersed and did their own things. However, there was a trace of doubt in their hearts. Is Tianyang really like what Tianyu said, a person who does whatever he wants? Tianyu, is it really what Tianyang said, those who are innocent will be innocent? What Tianyu had never expected was that, although his words had a slight effect, they had actually caused everyone to suspect him. The loss outweighed the gain. Ignoring this small interlude, Tianyang, Tian Qianqian, and Ling Yuhan walked around the Tian family and returned to their own residence. When they returned to the living room and sat on the sofa, Tian Qianqian and Ling Yuhan could not help but speak. Master, cousin, that Tianyu said that to you, why didn't you reply? Ling Yuhan and Tian Qianqian said angrily. They were not stupid. After returning home, they thought about it carefully and figured out Tianyu's purpose. Wasn't it to splash dirty water on Tianyang before the head of the Tian family was chosen so that Tianyu could take the head of the Tian family? Originally, Tianyang was just a trash. A trash naturally could not become the head of the Tian family. Therefore, whether it was Tianjin, Tianyu, or the guards at the door, they did not think that the future head of the Tian family would be Tianyang. However, after Tianyang showed his strength that could beat Tianjin, Tianyu panicked. He was afraid. He was afraid that Tianyang's strength was far more than that. He was afraid that he would lose his head of the Tian family. Therefore, he used such a despicable method. If you reply, it will be an argument. Never argue with a retard because he will drag your IQ down to his level and defeat you with his rich experience. If you start a fight directly, it will be like yellow mud falling on your crotch. Even if it's not shit, it will be shit. Isn't that what Tianyu wants? Tianyang smiled faintly. Ling Yuhan and Tian Qianqian were shocked when they heard this. Never did he expect that within those few short sentences of Tianyu's, there was actually such deep scheming hidden within. However, I didn't say anything and didn't do anything. This fellow's wishful thinking naturally fell through. Chapter 150. After listening to Tianyang's explanation, Tian Qianqian also left with a complicated look on her face. She had never imagined that Tianyu would resort to such means in order to fight for the position of family head. Was the position of family head more important than brotherly affection? If Tianyu succeeded, Tianyang's reputation in the Tian family would be ruined. How could Tianyu be so heartless? Looking at Tian Qianqian's complicated expression, Tianyang knew what she was thinking, but he didn't explain. As one of the 8 great families of the Snowgale State, the Tian family had a huge amount of power and influence. Even if there was an extremely pure familial affection when one was young, it would no longer be there when one reached adulthood. There were many schemes in the imperial family. However, if one's power was close to the imperial family, there would be many schemes. Therefore, Tianyang didn't explain for Tian Qianqian. In his opinion, although Tian Qianqian's cultivation talent was much worse than Ling Yuhan's, she wasn't weak either. If his Tao heart was tainted because of these trivial matters, then he would have no hope of breaking into the essence transformation realm or even higher in the future. Master, no matter what, Tianyu is too despicable. After sending Tian Qianqian off, Ling Yuhan said indignantly. The inner Yuan in her body was restless. If it wasn't for Tianyang watching, she would have fought Tianyu to the death. However, Tianyang only patted Ling Yuhan's head and asked her to shut up. Although Tianyu's character isn't good, his position in the Tian family is higher than mine, the young family head. Tianyang said. If you kill him or seriously injure him, Tianyu's father will definitely not let go of this opportunity and throw me, the young family head, out of the family. After all, the one who really wants the position of family head is the first elder. Tianyu is just a slightly more important chess piece. Tianyang's expression was indifferent. He didn't care about these matters at all. For the number 1 emperor from 10,000 years ago, the intrigue of a small Tian family was far from enough to enter his eyes. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan could only give up. She knew that if she really did make a move, she would only be more of a hindrance to Tianyang. Rather than that, it would be better to watch Tianyang display his invincible prowess at the year-end competition and slaughter Tianyu and the others. Because Ling Yuhan was an outsider, the Tian family would not arrange a place for her to stay. However, it was fine for her to stay at the Tianyang residence. Tianyang, because he was the young patriarch, although he was once a trash that everyone could humiliate, his treatment in the Tian family would definitely not be bad. After all, Tianyang's father was the real head of the Tian family. Legend had it that Tianyang's father was also an unparalleled genius. At the age of 20, he had already reached the peak of the clear Qi realm. At the age of 22, he had broken through to the transformed origin realm. The reason why the Tian family was so glorious and even ranked in the top 3 of the 8 major families was because of Tianyang's father. Therefore, for the son of the patriarch, the son of a meritorious official, the Tian family would definitely not dare to neglect him. At least in terms of treatment it was so. However, with the disappearance of Tianyang's father and the discovery of Tianyang's crippled meridians, all of this disappeared, leaving only a relatively large house for them to live in. I won't be staying in the Tian family for long. Tianyang sat cross-legged in his room. A light flashed in his eyes as he began to cultivate. Under the operation of the divine desolate heaven spirit art, the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy crazily rushed into Tianyang's body. The many spirit stones placed around, forming a small spirit gathering array, also emitted a bright light. Very quickly, one of the spirit stones was completely wasted. However, Tianyang had prepared over 1,000 spirit stones. It was naturally more than enough for him to cultivate. However, it was only a few minutes. A spirit stone that was worth tens of thousands of gold coins in the outside world was wasted. The divine desolate heaven spirit art, 100 feet chi-si, was indeed terrifying. Under Tianyang's seclusion, the commotion caused by Tianyang's return on the first day was gradually forgotten. The weather gradually turned cold, and snow began to fall in Snowgale country. In Tianjin's residence, Tianjin climbed up in a sorry state under the care of a servant. Looking at the falling snow outside the window, his eyes flashed with hatred. Tianyang, you actually dared to injure me, almost making me unable to participate in the family competition. If it wasn't for the elixirs that Cousin Tianyu gave me, I wouldn't have been able to participate in the family competition. I'd like to see what you'll do after Cousin Tianyu defeats you, the trash young clan leader, in front of everyone during the clan competition. With such weak strength, I'd like to see if you still have the face to continue being the young family leader. Tianjin was filled with hatred. When the servant beside him heard this, he was also shocked. The hand that was holding the clothes could not help but tremble. Could it be that Tianjin and Tianyu had already planned to deal with Tianyang? On the other side, Tianyu's face was cold as he put on the Tian family's disciple uniform and prepared to go out. The Tian family competition was held in the Tian family's martial arts field. It was there that Tianyu would show his prowess, defeat all his opponents, and inherit the position of the family leader. A piece of trash who is only at the first or second stage of the Bright Chi realm dares to try to take over my position as the family leader who is at the fifth stage of the Bright Chi realm. This Tianyang overestimates himself. Tianyu's face was cold as he scorned in his heart and walked out of the room. Today was the day of the Tian family's year-end family competition. At the same time, it was also the day to determine the next family leader of the Tian family. At Tianyang's residence, Tianyang strolled leisurely towards the Tian family's martial arts field with Ling Yuhan in tow. At the martial arts field, there were already people who had been preparing for a long time. The falling snow outside did not affect the martial arts field at all. With the presence of these seated aura enlightening realm experts, all the snowflakes were blocked outside. Sitting at the head of the field, with white hair fluttering in the wind, eyes like an eagle, was the current acting family leader of the Tian family, as well as the great elder of the Tian family, Tian Gu. On the left was the head of the 8 great families, the great elder of the Yi family, Yi Ming. The person seated on the right was a young lady of outstanding beauty. She was dressed in exceptionally gorgeous clothes, and her appearance was also extremely beautiful. She possessed a unique temperament that would make ordinary young ladies feel ashamed of their inferiority when they saw her. This person was the current royal family of the Arctic state. She was known as one of the youngest and most outstanding geniuses of the Arctic state, Princess Ling Ling. At the age of 16, she was already at the peak of the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. Next to Princess Ling Ling were 2 people from the cloud-soaring sect, who had traveled thousands of kilometers to watch the heavenly sun sweep through the battlefield. Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong sat together, looking at the many disciples of the Tian family who had yet to enter the field with a strange smile on their faces. They wanted to see if Tianyang would be able to defeat everyone in the Tian family competition. Or would he be able to defeat everyone? Tianyang looked at the 2 of them with a helpless expression. Why are these 2 guys here to join in the fun? The Tian family's liveliness was much more than what they had imagined. It seemed that the people of the Tian family did not know that Tianyang was the most dazzling member of the younger generation in the Hidden Dragon ancient land. In other places, the Shao family and the Yang family of the 8 great families were also present. Yang Kun and Yang Shao were the representatives of the Yang family. At this moment, in front of Tianyang, they did not dare to be presumptuous. After all, the strength of the Tian family was much stronger than the Yang family. Tianyang's talent was also much stronger than the 2 of them. At the end of the year, the Tian family competition. Chapter 151. After everyone had arrived, the Tian family's great elder stood up from his seat. In a flash, he appeared in front of the crowd. His white beard fluttered in the wind, and his white robe danced in the wind. The aura of a 9th-level bright Qi realm cultivator filled the air, causing the noisy martial arts field to quiet down. First of all, I would like to welcome all the guests who have taken the time to come to our Tian family to watch this year's Tian family competition. The great elder glanced at the crowd and smiled kindly. However, Tianyang, who was in the crowd, could clearly feel that the great elder's gaze contained a trace of malicious intent. Obviously, this great elder did not give up on the idea of seizing Tianyang's position just because Tianyang had been living in seclusion for the past few days. However, hearing this, the crowd curled their lip. Although they responded with flattery, they did not take it seriously in their hearts. If they had not heard that this competition was related to the selection of the future head of the Tian family, they would not have come to watch the competition of the younger generation of the Tian family. However, look over there, the useless young head of the Tian family, Tianyang, is back. No wonder some people said that this competition was related to the future head of the Tian family. It turns out that the young head of the Tian family is back. This Tianyang is really stupid. Even if he has some strength, it is impossible for him to be the opponent of Tianyu, who is at the 5th level of the Bright Qi realm. Coming back to participate in the competition, isn't he giving up the position of the head of the Tian family for nothing? Seeing Tianyang's slightly narrowed eyelids and expressionless face in the crowd, some of the representatives of the major forces could not help but discuss. After all, Tianyang's reputation as a waste was too deeply ingrained in people's hearts. Even if Tianyang's cultivation was not weak, the crowd still thought that Tianyang's strength was not that great. Therefore, these people were unscrupulously mocking the young head of the Tian family. Lower your voice. After all, this is the Tian family's business. The internal affairs of the top 3 families among the 8 major families are not something we can discuss. A middle-aged man glanced at the people next to him and found that no one was paying attention to them, so he said to the person next to him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man next to him sneered. So what if they talk about it? This Tianyang is just a waste. What kind of status could he have in the Tian family? The Tian family's clan head position will no longer belong to Tianyang's bloodline. Even if we humiliate them in public, the Tian family won't do anything to us. The middle-aged man sneered. He was the head of the Lu family, a family second only to the 8 great families in the Arctic state. Naturally, he wouldn't care too much about a junior like Tianyang. However, if he knew that Tianyang had killed a radiant Qi stage elder of the Blood Soul sect right in front of the sect leader of the Blood Soul sect during the bloody battle at the Hidden Dragon Ancient Grounds, he would not have said that. After all, even though he was the patriarch of the Lu clan, his cultivation level was only at the 8th level of the Bright Qi realm. Furthermore, he did not engage in battle as often as the Blood Soul sect. In terms of battle prowess, the Lu family patriarch was no match for Xuekong, not to mention Tianyang. Even so, this is the Tian family after all. If the old man surnamed Tian wants to use this as an excuse to deal with us, we can't do anything about it. The middle-aged man said. Although the Lu family patriarch did not agree with his words, he followed the advice of his old friend and kept his mouth shut. However, Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong, who had been silent all this while, could not help but smile strangely when they heard the conversation between the two. Luckily, there was still a smart person here. Otherwise, if the so-called Lu family patriarch said a few more words, then, if Tianyang was in a bad mood, he might even kill him with a sword. If the Lu family patriarch died, they would be like a group of dragons without a leader and would be destroyed directly. At this time, the Tian family's first elder finally finished thanking the group of people and said, "This year's Tian family competition is the same as the previous years. It will be a round by round until the champion is determined. However, the rewards for this year's Tian family competition are much better than the previous years. The champion will receive a core condensing pill, 5,000 spiritual stones, 1 spatial bag. The champion of second place will receive 3,000 spiritual stones, 1 spatial bag. The champion of third place will receive 1,500 spiritual stones. The first elder's tone was a little too high as he announced the rewards for the top 3. Hearing this, most of the Tian family's disciples were excited. Thousands of spiritual stones, and a spatial bag, and an even more powerful second-grade pill, the core condensing pill. The core condensing pill was extremely important for a cultivator at the bright chi stage to break through to the transformed origin stage. It was the most powerful pill that a cultivator at the bright chi stage needed to break through to the transformed origin stage. Apart from the soul-dispersing pill that had been lost for 10,000 years and no one could refine it, the soul-solidifying pill was without a doubt the strongest upgrade-type second-grade pill. The Tian family was so generous that they even took out a treasure like the core-condensing pill. However, Tianyang just smiled faintly when he heard this. He knew that the Tian family did not have many core-condensing pills. For this level of treasure, the first elder would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. In that case, the first elder was using his own core condensing pill as a reward. As for who the reward would go to, without a doubt, it would go to the current Tian family's number 1 genius, the first elder's son, Tian Yu. This first elder is really cunning. Everyone knows that the champion will be his son, so the core condensing pill must be given to Tian Yu. However, he did not say it explicitly. In that case, the first elder's action of taking out the core condensing pill for the sake of the Tian family's disciples will definitely earn the first elder's loyalty. This old man is really calculating every step of the way in order to seize the position of the family head. Seeing the first elder of the Tian family, the first elder of the Yi family, the leader of the 8 great families, could not help but sneer. Hearing this, Princess Ling Ling, who was next to him, was stunned. Although she had a noble status, she did not feel much about the intrigue in the palace. After all, she was a woman and had several brothers. The position of the monarch of the Blizzard State would definitely not be hers. This first elder is actually so scheming. Unlike Princess Ling Ling's puzzlement, Yi Zhanling's face became extremely ugly. This first elder, for the sake of the Tian family's family head position, he actually calculated to such an extent. However, if Tianyang is still the waste that you thought he was, then the first elder's scheme will succeed. Yi Zhanling just showed a trace of anger, then he thought of something and laughed. However, Tianyang's current strength, do you really know? Hearing this, Yang Xiong's face also showed a funny smile. They were curious to see how the first elder would deal with this situation. At this time, everyone had finished drawing lots and the family competition began. Chapter 152. First round, Tianyang vs. Tianling. At this moment, the great elder had returned to his seat. The person in charge of drawing lots and announcing the names was a middle-aged deacon of the Tian family. However, this deacon was obviously not loyal to the clan leader's bloodline. It was clear from his malicious gaze. Even this deacon was one of the great elder's men. The first round is Tianling? As for Tianyang, after hearing the results of the draw, he did not show much surprise. It was as if he had expected Tianling to be his opponent. In fact, this was indeed the case. In the first round of the competition, the great elder's people would definitely be anxious to find out the background of this young clan leader who had suddenly appeared. If he was too strong, he would be able to defeat Tianyang in one move. Then, with Tianyang's strength, it would not be easy to deal with him. Moreover, if they defeated the young clan leader at the beginning, it would not look good for the Tian family. However, if he was too weak, he could not be weaker than Tianjun. After all, in front of the Martial Skills Pavilion 10 days ago, countless people had seen Tianyang easily beat up Tianjun. He could not be too strong, but he could not be too weak. Among the disciples of the Tian family, only Tian Ling could do this. Looking at Tian Ling, who was walking to the center of the martial arts field with him, information flashed through Tianyang's mind. Tian Ling was at the peak of the second level of the bright Qi realm. Her awakened martial soul was a long saber. It belonged to the upper grade of the yellow rank, and was close to the half-step to the profound rank. Using such a person to test Tianyang's strength was naturally the best. After all, in the eyes of the crowd, Tianyang's strength was roughly at the first or second level of the bright Qi realm. After staying in the Lingyun sect for a while, the martial skills that he cultivated would definitely be stronger than Tian Ling's. Based on this calculation, Tianyang's strength should be about the same as Tian Ling's. Young Master Tianyang, we haven't seen each other for a few years. We meet again. Looking at Tianyang's indifferent expression, Tian Ling's eyes flashed with jealousy. Why could this trash be the son of the clan leader? Why did she even have to address him as young master? Why is this trash still able to fight me? Although Tian Ling was not on the first elder's side, her jealousy and hostility towards Tianyang was even stronger than Tianjun's. Oh! Tianyang nodded slightly and replied with a single word. In the next moment, the killing sword appeared in his hand. The heavenly sword immediately attached itself to it. The low-grade profound rank heavenly sword flickered slightly, and when the heavenly spirit saw this, her pupils constricted, and a hint of anger surfaced on her face. She had been so polite, but Tianyang had only replied with one word? He was just a piece of trash, yet he dared to treat him like this. Since that was the case, then he would display his strongest strength and beat this so-called young clan leader until he was looking for his teeth on the ground. Machete! Tian Ling roared furiously. Light flashed on his interspatial bag, and a saber flashed out. In the next moment, Tian Ling brandished the saber and charged fiercely at Tianyang. Yellow and profound rank martial spirits were unable to condense into a physical body. Therefore, the usage of Tian Ling's saber martial spirit was the same as Tianyang's heavenly sword. However, sooner or later, the heavenly sword would enter the earth rank and condense into a physical body. As for his saber, it would forever be an illusion. It's actually machete. And cousin Tian Ling even used a low-grade artifact. A half-step to profound rank martial skill, a low-grade artifact, and a high-grade yellow-rank martial spirit. The heavenly spirit has actually used most of its strength from the very beginning. Is it trying to decide the outcome of the battle? When the many Tian family disciples who were watching the battle saw this, their faces changed as they exclaimed in shock. They were very clear about Tian Ling's strength. Among the Tian family disciples, she was considered one of the best, second only to a few people. Even Tianyang's cousin, Tian Qianqian, did not dare to say that she could win against Tian Ling. Oh no! Tian Ling suddenly attacked. Cousin might not even be able to react. Tian Qianqian was also below the stage. She anxiously looked at the indifferent Tianyang. At this time, Tianyang still did not move at all. Lin Yuhan, who was in the audience, and Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong, who were in the VIP seats, all revealed a trace of mockery when they saw this. An attack of this level wants to kill the number one genius of our Soaring Cloud sect? Isn't he looking down on the Soaring Cloud sect too much? Bang! The saber and the killing sword fiercely collided, producing a crisp sound. Seeing this, Tian Ling was shocked. When did Tianyang attack? However, Tian Ling quickly reacted. Just as she was about to increase her strength, a terrifying force came from the killing sword and directly shook Tian Ling back a few steps. What's going on? How can Tianyang's physical strength be so terrifying? Although Tian Ling had retreated in time, the terrifying force still hit Tian Ling's body. Tian Ling's face turned pale for a moment as she looked at Tianyang in disbelief. As for Tianyang, he maintained his previous posture and looked at Tian Ling indifferently. It's just a little brute force. In front of true strength, it's just brute force. It can only be crushed. Tian Ling roared angrily. The saber in her hand shone brightly as the true origin of the peak of the bright Qi realm gushed out. The power of her martial soul was completely unleashed. Middle-grade dark-rank martial technique, raging flame saber technique. Tian Ling roared furiously as the true origin of the bright Qi realm burst out and condensed on the saber. The saber suddenly burned with a layer of flame, and in the next moment, it exploded with boundless power. Seeing this, Tian Qianqian's face turned even paler. Tian Ling had even used the middle-grade dark-rank martial technique, raging flame saber technique. No matter how strong Tianyang was, it was impossible for him to block this attack. After all, she had lost to this attack. Haha. The so-called young clan leader is just a piece of trash in front of true strength. Die for me. Tian Ling laughed maniacally as she used her movement technique and rushed towards Tianyang. The raging flame saber technique that exploded with a huge amount of energy also arrived in front of Tianyang in an instant. The raging flame saber technique's grade is not bad, but in your hands it's just trash. Tianyang's indifferent voice slowly rang out. Hearing this, Tian Ling's face became even more ferocious. The saber technique that she was so proud of was actually trash in Tianyang's mouth? Then I'll let you see how trash will take your life. Tian Ling roared as the raging flame saber technique shone brightly and violently attacked Tianyang. A surging aura exploded from Tian Ling's body. Everyone's expression changed. Tianyang had actually angered Tian Ling. You brought this upon yourself, haha. Tian Kuang, your son is even worse than you. When the great elder saw this, he laughed wildly in his heart. In his opinion, Tianyang was undoubtedly courting death. However, in the next moment, before the great elder could laugh out loud, his smile suddenly froze. Ling Yuhan, Yi Zhanling, and the others also let out a soft laugh. A killing sword stood between the two of them. Under the block of the killing sword, countless cracks appeared on the saber. Crack, crack. Subsequently, boom. Chapter 153. Boom. A powerful shockwave erupted from between Tian Ling and Tianyang, sending the fragments of the long saber flying in all directions. The speed of the fragments was extremely fast, but the spectators were not ordinary people either. They only needed to use their true essence to send these fragments flying. However, these fragments did not meet any resistance at all. They flew past the spectators and pierced into the ground. Yes, everyone was stunned. That was a low-grade treasure weapon. It was not a so-called broken low-grade treasure weapon, but a top-notch long saber treasure weapon among the low-grade treasures. If the long sword in Tianyang's hand had been a mid-grade treasure weapon, they would not have said anything. However, the killing sword had not revealed its brilliance. Naturally, it could not have released the power of a mid-grade treasure weapon to shatter the long saber. In other words, Tianyang had used his own strength to shatter the low-grade treasure long saber. However, as Tianyang's opponent, the owner of the broken long saber, Tian Ling, was sweating profusely as he looked at Tianyang in disbelief. Tianyang still had that faint smile on his face. However, the smile that he had previously interpreted as mockery was now the smile of the Grim Reaper. He was the owner of the long saber, so he naturally knew the reason why the long saber had shattered. It was not what the spectators had imagined. Tianyang had used his own strength to shatter the long saber. On the contrary, Tianyang had not used any strength at all. It was Tian Ling's own strength that had shattered the long saber. At the moment when the long saber and the killing sword collided, Tianyang's hand suddenly moved in a subtle arc. A strange force was released from the long saber. Then, all the power that Tian Ling had released was completely reflected back. If Tian Ling had not reacted quickly and controlled this power within the long saber, it would have been, just this move alone would have been enough to seriously injure Tian Ling. However, as a price, Tian Ling's long saber had also been sacrificed. Otherwise, there was no need to continue this match. If Tian Ling had been seriously injured, there would have been no point in continuing this match. Damn it! How could this trash have such profound combat skills? Tianling roared angrily in her heart as she looked at the calm and composed Tianyang with bewilderment. This was definitely not a martial skill, because no matter how profound a martial skill was, it required the support of true essence. However, before this, Tianyang did not even use a bit of true essence. He had only used his physical strength. Just by using the power of his physical body, he was able to produce such an effect. From this, it could be seen how terrifying this combat technique was. After I cripple this trash, I'll have to interrogate him about this battle technique. If I can master this battle technique, even Tian you will have to crawl at my feet, let alone Tian Qianqian. Tianling laughed wildly in her heart, as if she was already imagining how beautiful it would be in the future after she mastered this combat technique. However, Tianyang would not let go of this opportunity. He knew that the Great Elder and the others had sent out the heavenly spirit to test his strength. However, what if he instantly killed Tianling? At most, they would know that he was very strong, and they might even come up with some countermeasures. However, in the face of absolute strength, all countermeasures were in vain. Tianyang only needed to use his strongest strength to crush them. Only then would they know how stupid their actions against Tianyang were. Damn it! I was distracted. Seeing Tianyang silently approaching him, Tianling was shocked and hurriedly used his movement skill. However, before he could retreat even 1 meter, Tianyang's hand reached out. Without even using the killing sword, Tianyang's hand had already firmly grabbed Tianling's neck. Bastard! Let me down! If I die, you trash will not have an easy time. Under the power of the flood dragon's body, Tianling's body, which was only about 50 kilograms at most, seemed to be as light as a feather. He was lifted up like a chick. Because Tianyang's hand was directly grabbing Tianling's neck, Tianling's face was red and his neck was thick. Even his angry roar had lost most of his momentum. Hearing this, Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. Wouldn't have an easy time? He wanted to see how this heavenly spirit was going to make him suffer. In the next moment, Tianyang no longer showed mercy. The flood dragon body erupted, and a terrifying force that was enough to crush everyone was released from Tianling's body. Then, Tianyang directly grabbed Tianling's neck and smashed him to the side. Boom! Tianling was like a cannonball as he smashed heavily into the wall of the training ground. Even the hard wall had a huge hole in it. The entire training ground seemed to be trembling because of Tianyang's smash. As for Tianling, the moment he smashed into the wall, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his ribs were broken. If not for his good luck, even his dantian would have been pierced. However, with such a serious injury, even if Tianling had a dantian, it would be futile. If he wanted to recover, he would need the best second-grade healing pill, life recovery pill. However, this pill was worth thousands of gold. The Tian family didn't even have the means to buy it. In other words, Tianling, the Tian family's peak second-stage genius, under Tianyang's smash, he was completely crippled. He was completely turned into a cripple. Suddenly, the audience went into an uproar. No one would have thought that Tianyang would be so valiant. As a useless young master with no status, he actually dared to treat Tianling in such a manner. What shocked everyone the most was Tianyang's strength. Compared to what he had done, it was much more valiant. Even a genius like Tianling was easily thrown away by Tianyang. After being thrown out, he even smashed through a hard wall. Such strength was probably comparable to a demonic beast. Referee, Tianling is seriously injured. Can you announce the result of the battle? Too lazy to look at Tianling, who was thrown away by him, Tianyang came in front of the referee and smiled faintly. Looking at those deep eyes and bright smile, the deacon, who was at the 4th stage of the Bright Chi realm, didn't know why his heart trembled. It was as if the person in front of him wasn't a useless young master. Instead, it was as if he was a demon king from hell. First battle, Tian. Tianyang wins. With a trembling voice, the referee announced the result of the battle. It was as if he was about to collapse. In front of Tianyang, it was so difficult for him to even say a word. Is this still the useless young master they knew? At this time, the audience was unusually silent. Facing a genius like Tianling, Tianyang was able to easily win without even using his true yuan. Could it be that this useless young master, Tianyang, has risen? At the head of the VIP seats, the Tian family's great elder's face was ashen. The tea in his hand was constantly fluctuating and was about to be crushed. Chapter 154. It was only when Tianyang stepped off the stage and began to casually chat with Ling Yuhan that everyone's silence was lifted. This Tianyang is really terrifying. I'm afraid he has already broken the limit of being born with crippled meridians a long time ago. Facing the humiliation of the Tian family, he actually endured it. His temperament is too strong. When a hero reaches his end, Tianyang used to be the #1 genius of the Tian family. However, due to being born with crippled meridians, he was sent to hell. Now, Tianyang's strong rise has really confirmed this sentence. The crowd couldn't help but whisper. As for the next few battles, they were no longer interested in watching and were all in discussion. The focus of the discussion was naturally the useless young patriarch who just killed Tianling, Tianyang. As for Tianling, after Tianyang left the stage, the big elder sent someone to check on her. However, there was no way to save her. Tianling was already a cripple. No one knew how crazy Tianling would be when she woke up. After all, before this battle, Tianling was still in the limelight. She was known as one of the most outstanding geniuses of the Tian family. Master, the way the big elder looked at you is not right. Walking to Ling Yuhan's side, Tianyang wanted to say something but was interrupted by Ling Yuhan's serious voice. Hearing this, Tianyang didn't care and just sneered. I saw it long ago. You might not know, but Tian Yu's father is this old big elder. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's face changed. Then, Master, why are you still participating in this competition? If Master defeats Tian Yu and takes first place, the big elder of the Tian family will definitely not let go of you. Different from Tianyang, Ling Yuhan was very familiar with the power of the Tian family. For the Tian family to be able to control Yang Tian City and manage the city so well, it wasn't without reason. The means of the upper echelons of the Tian family is definitely not to be underestimated. Plus, the Tian family has a powerful force. If the big elder of the Tian family convinces others to deal with Tianyang together, it would be very troublesome. Tianyang would definitely be very troublesome, and there was even a risk of being assassinated. Your courage is still not enough. Isn't it just a small Tian family? As my disciple, you have to broaden your horizons. What you're practicing is the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword art. Your Sea of Qi is a super strong Sea of Qi of 90 zhang. With your talent, this Arctic state is merely the beginning of your path of cultivation. Your stage is the entire continent. Being confined to a small country like Snow Wind, and actually being afraid of an even smaller Tian family, how can one become a great talent? Tianyang said with disappointment. Ling Yuhan blushed when she heard that. Then, she cursed in her heart, isn't he just concerned about you? However, after teaching Ling Yuhan a lesson, Tianyang changed the topic and smiled. Furthermore, the reason I came to this family competition is to beat Tianyu up and give that so-called first elder a good slap in the face. Tianyang laughed. Ling Yuhan was stunned when she heard that. Then, a trace of admiration appeared on her face. The great elder of the Tian family was at the peak of the 9th level of the Clear Qi realm. He was not far from the transformed Origin realm. Even if Tianyang could kill Xuekong, he was still far from the great elder of the Tian family. However, Tianyang was not afraid at all. He even wanted to slap the face of the great elder. This was the boldness of a strong warrior. It seems that even though I'm Master's disciple and my cultivation is close to Master's, I still need to learn more from Master. Ling Yuhan thought to herself. At this time, the first round of the Tian family competition had ended. The most dazzling one was naturally the young master of the trash family, Tianyang. Even Tian Yu's brilliance was suppressed by Tianyang. This made everyone look forward to the next round. In the next round, would Tianyang continue to rise or would he stop? Those who advanced to the second round, please come up to the stage to draw lots. At this time, the referee shouted. Hearing that, Tianyang smiled at Ling Yuhan and went up to draw lot. Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong, who were sleepy, heard that and became alert. They were not familiar with the Tian family. This time, they came to the Tian family to watch Tianyang show off and slap the face. The previous wave of face slapping made them feel good. Now that it was the second round, they wanted to see how Tianyang would beat up his opponent. The first round, Tian Fei against Tian Liang. Those who are not involved, please come down. After deciding the candidates for this round, the referee said. The others also went down and waited quietly beside the stage. When Tianyang heard the names of these two people, he raised his eyelids and looked at the stage. Tian Fei and Tian Liang, these two people, he knew them. However, although he knew them, these people were completely different from Tian Qianqian. They were exactly the same as Tian Zhen, Tian Ling, and the others. When Tianyang's talent was amazing and dazzling, they crazily tried to curry favor with him. When Tianyang was found to have a waste vein, they abandoned him. Not only did they not continue to be friendly with him, they even stepped on him a few times. For such people, Tianyang was curious. To what extent could these fence-sitters grow? Begin. Along with the referee's order, the two who were in a tense battle state immediately rushed out. Upper grade yellow rank, water-swallowing fist. Tian Liang roared. A water-blue brilliance circulated in his hand. The next moment, he directly blasted it out. Tian Fei was not afraid. Upper grade yellow rank, scarlet fire palm. One water and one fire, the conflict was intense. When these two people clashed, it caused a series of noises. However, seeing this, Tianyang could not be bothered to continue watching. Two people, one half a step into the bright Qi realm, the other peak of the body refinement realm. If it were a few months ago, when Tianyang had just been reborn, Tianyang would have been confident of defeating them. Now, after a few months, Tianyang's cultivation had risen to the peak of the bright Qi realm. He could even kill Shuekong, who was at the bright Qi realm of the bright Qi realm. Tian Fei and Tian Liang were just trash to him. The battle between these two weaklings naturally did not last long. Soon, after the first battle, the second battle also ended a few minutes later. At this time, the referee looked at the name list in his hand. His expression suddenly changed. Some sharp-eyed people could even see the paleness on the referee's face. This also made the referee puzzled. Who was going to fight in the third battle? How could a bright Qi realm fourth stage referee be like this? In the next moment, the referee shouted loudly. The third battle, Tianyang against Tian Zhen. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned for a moment. Then, a playful smile appeared on his face. On the other hand, Tian Zhen's face flashed with hatred. He touched the space bag at his waist, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. Then, the two people went up to the battle stage and faced each other. Tianyang stood with his hands by his side, his face indifferent. On the other hand, Tian Zhen touched his space bag with hatred. In the next moment, the referee shouted loudly. Chapter 155. Begin. Following the judge's shout, the two of them shot out like arrows. Bang, bang, bang. 3 consecutive explosions sounded under Tian Zhen's feet. Tian Zhen's speed suddenly increased to a shocking speed. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Tianyang. It's the profound low-grade movement technique, spirit explosion steps. Legend has it that this movement technique is extremely difficult to cultivate. I never thought that Tianjin would be able to successfully cultivate it with his half-step enlightened Qi realm cultivation. Everyone exclaimed in shock as they looked at the blue light that was constantly exploding beneath Tianjin's feet, as well as Tianjin's increasing speed. The difficulty of cultivating a profound low-grade movement technique far exceeded that of a yellow peerless movement technique. Even a half-step profound low-grade movement technique could not compare to it. Logically speaking, only a cultivator in the enlightened Qi realm could successfully cultivate a profound low-grade movement technique in a short period of time. However, Tianjin, who was only a half-step enlightened Qi realm, had actually succeeded in cultivating the Spirit Explosion Steps. Spirit Explosion Steps was a profound low-grade movement technique. It was one of the most outstanding profound low-grade movement techniques in the Tian family's martial skill pavilion. The principle was simple. It was to use compressed true yuan to explode under one's feet. Using the reaction force, one's speed would increase. However, the principle was simple, but it did not mean that the cultivation was simple. In order to cultivate this profound low-grade movement technique, many people in the Tian family had spent a lot of time and effort. However, they did not get anything back. He has successfully cultivated a profound low-grade movement technique? It seems that this guy is not completely useless. Looking at Tianjin, who was right in front of him, Tianyang smiled faintly. The killing sword in his hand trembled slightly, and a powerful aura was released from his body. Suddenly, Tianjin's body, which was about to reach Tianyang, froze. In the next moment, he was forcefully sent flying a few feet by the aura. So strong! Seeing that Tianjin was sent flying by Tianyang before he could even attack, the crowd exclaimed again. As for Tianjin, after landing on the ground, he looked at Tianyang with a sinister smile. Trash young clan leader, you can only be arrogant at this time. Go to hell. In the next moment, Tianjin used Spirit Explosion Steps again and charged toward Tianyang. Peerless Yellow Rank Wind Fist. Tianjin roared. A strong gust of wind appeared on his body and gathered on his fist. Then, he punched towards Tianyang. However, when Tianyang saw this scene, his eyes moved slightly as he sensed that something was wrong. Tianjin had already been beaten up by him once. Previously, he had even revealed that he had the strength to kill a heavenly spirit. What kind of trump card did Tianjin have to be so arrogant in the family competition? With that in mind, Tianyang raised his guard. He swung his killing sword and continued to fight. Tianjin's wind form fist was not weak either. He had cultivated it to the peak of the first stage and was not far from the second stage. However, due to the absolute disadvantage in terms of cultivation and martial skills, Tianjin was unable to defeat Tianyang even though he had already exceeded his limit. He was even beaten up by Tianyang. Damn it! Tianjin saw that he had already used all his strength but was still beaten up by Tianyang easily. Even his strongest move was easily broken by Tianyang. Tianjin's heart was filled with humiliation. Since this is the case, I shall use my trump card now. After all, Tianyang will die in the end. Anyone who dares to compete with Cousin Tianyu for the family head position will die. Tianjin laughed coldly in his heart. Then, his martial soul power gathered in his sea of soul. The shield martial soul that had been broken by Tianyang appeared in his hand once again. The shield was bright silver and under the sunlight, it shone with a strong light. Seeing this, Tianyang was slightly stunned. Then, he laughed lightly. You have even used your martial soul. Are you going to decide the winner? In the next moment, Tianyang released his heavenly sword and gathered it on his killing sword. The power of his lower dark rank martial soul was wild. Prepare to die. However, the crowd did not realize that Tianyang's heavenly sword had already reached the lower dark rank. Therefore, Tianjin charged forward without any fear. He circulated his true origin and charged forward as if he was going to die. Is this guy crazy? Seeing Tianjin charge forward with a shield, Tianyang was confused. Then, he realized what was going on. This guy has been beaten up by me in a head-on battle. Now, he is going to use his trump card. Flowing Cloud Sword skill, Flowing Cloud Sword. Tianyang shouted. The Flowing Cloud Sword skill that he had not used for a long time suddenly shone brightly. Together with the powerful Killing Sword, a Flowing Cloud Sword radiance shot out. Seeing this, the crowd was stunned. This is a Peerless Dark Rank Sword skill. How did Tianyang know a Peerless Dark Rank Sword skill? Moreover, he had cultivated it to such a level? What? When he saw the fatal Flowing Cloud Sword radiance, Tianjin's face changed drastically. However, when he thought of the trump card that he had prepared, his lips curled into a sinister smile. I don't believe that my martial soul can't block your sword. Tianjin roared and his shield martial soul shone brightly. Facing the Flowing Cloud Sword radiance, Tianjin chose to take it head-on. Boom! A deafening explosion sounded from the center of the fighting ring. Bright silver shards flew everywhere. Under the attack of the Flowing Cloud Sword radiance, Tianjin's martial soul, which was not of a low rank, instantly exploded. The remaining sword light landed heavily on Tianjin's chest. If it weren't for the treasure heart-protecting mirror protecting him, this sword would have killed Tianjin. Good. Ha 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 ha. When he saw that the Flowing Cloud Sword radiance had only injured him, Tianjin could not help but laugh maniacally. Then, he forcefully circulated his remaining true origin and executed the spiritual explosion step. His speed suddenly increased to a terrifying level. Last time, you were lucky enough to escape my cartilage corrosion poison. Now you won't be so lucky. Dying early or dying late, it's all the same. You trash, you should have gone to hell long ago. Tianjin roared crazily. The interspatial bag flashed and a strange green light appeared in Tianjin's hand. When Tianyang heard this, his face changed. Then, he understood what had happened. No wonder the previous Tianyang had died in such a strange way. It turned out that he had eaten the cartilage corrosion poison that Tianjin had deliberately prepared. The cartilage corrosion poison was an extremely strange poison. Even an elite in the enlightened Qi realm would be severely injured if they accidentally ate it. Not to mention, the previous Tianyang was just an ordinary person who had not stepped into the martial path. To be able to die under the famous piercing immortal poison, you, Tianyang, should be honored. Tianjin roared crazily. When the crowd heard this, their faces changed. Ling Yuhan and Tian Qianqian's faces turned pale. Yi Zhanling and Yang Xiong's faces turned extremely ugly. According to the legends, the real piercing immortal poison was enough to kill an elite in the Dao Fire realm. Even if Tianjin only had a replica, it was enough to kill an elite in the enlightened Qi realm. At that moment, Chapter 156, Immortal Piercing Poison. It was a terrifying poison that was well known throughout the entire Arctic state and even the entire region. Legend had it that the piercing immortal poison originated from the primordial age, which was 10,000 years ago. It was made from many highly toxic substances. If it was the complete version of the piercing immortal poison, it could even kill a Dao Fire realm expert. Although the poison that Tianjin had just used was definitely not the real immortal piercing poison, it was still too easy to kill an illuminating Qi realm cultivator. When Tianyang saw this, his eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at the bag of poison that was flying towards him, and a light flashed across his eyes. The immortal piercing poison that was flying towards him seemed to have slowed down significantly. Every inch of its movement was seen through by Tianyang. If Tianyang wanted to dodge the immortal piercing poison now, he could do so at any time. However, Tianyang did not do so. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up into a smile. He removed the probing of his soul power and the protection of his true yuan. Just like that, the immortal piercing poison landed on the surface of his body. Ha 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 ha. Tianyang, you still fell for it in the end. When he saw the bag of poison explode on Tianyang's skin, Tianjun laughed maniacally. Although his face was pale, his eyes were filled with uncontrollable savagery. This was the immortal piercing poison. A replica of the immortal piercing poison that could kill an illuminating Qi realm elite. Tianyang was at most at the 3rd or 4th stage of the illuminating Qi realm. How could he possibly survive the immortal piercing poison? Therefore, Tianjun started laughing maniacally. The surrounding crowd fell silent. The effects of the immortal piercing poison were very quick. Although Tianyang did not have any reaction at the moment, he was still in a daze. However, in the eyes of the crowd, he was not far from death. After all, this was the immortal piercing poison. Tianyang laughed faintly as he looked down at Tianjun. His lips parted slightly as he spat out a few words. So what if I fell for it? Being poisoned means death. You? How could you? Tianjun replied without thinking. However, in the next moment, Tianjun heard the source of this sentence, and his savage expression froze. His face was like a male duck that had been choked by the neck. His pupils constricted as he stared at Tianyang, unable to speak. Die. Tianyang continued laughing. Although the bag of poison had destroyed his clothes, it was only his clothes. The fact that Tianyang's face was still ruddy meant that he was completely unharmed. How could this be? This is impossible. This is the immortal piercing poison. Tianjun roared madly. He couldn't understand why the infamous immortal piercing poison had no effect on Tianyang. In response, Tianyang sneered and performed the dragon subduing step. Why was Tianyang not afraid of the immortal piercing poison in the slightest, and instead allowed Tianjun to throw the immortal piercing poison at him? That was because his physical strength was too terrifying. He had the body of a flood dragon. His physical strength was comparable to a flood dragon's. Ordinary rank 2 demonic beasts would be killed instantly. With such physical strength, there was no need for him to be afraid of ordinary poisons. Although the immortal piercing poison was slightly stronger, Tianyang had seen this thing 10,000 years ago. Tianyang knew the weakness of the immortal piercing poison very well. After all, he had seen the real deal of the immortal piercing poison. Tianyang used his earth tear movement technique. His speed instantly increased to the maximum. Then, he appeared behind Tianjun. He reached out his slender hand and lifted Tianjun by the neck. You! Tianjun's face turned pale as his neck was grabbed. The immortal piercing poison had no effect on Tianyang. Didn't that mean that if Tianyang wanted to deal with him now, he wouldn't be able to retaliate? It's just the family competition. Using such a vicious method like the immortal piercing poison. Keeping this half-step enlightened Qi realm true origin cultivation will only harm others. Destroy him. Tianyang held Tianjun in one hand and the killing sword in the other. He stood calmly in the middle of the flute. His cold voice rang out. When it reached Tianjun's ears, Tianjun shuddered. That voice seemed to have come from the depths of hell. It was emotionless and made people shudder in fear. Seeing this, Tianjun's father, the second elder of the Tian family, became anxious and roared. Tianyang, let go of Tianjun. In response, Tianyang only glanced coldly at the second elder of the Tian family. He didn't care at all. He circulated the true origin cultivation in his body, and a force entered Tianjun's body. In the next moment, the force that entered Tianjun's body made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His face turned pale and his body trembled. That was because the force had already reached his dantian. In the next moment, Tianyang made a mental command and Tianjun's dantian turned into nothingness with a poof. The true origin cultivation in it was also completely destroyed. Under Tianyang's merciless method, Tianjun's dantian could no longer be restored. Even if a grade 3 or grade 4 elixir pill were used to remedy the situation, it would not be able to neutralize his method. That was because he was the Tianji Sword Emperor. Tianjun is destroyed? Tianjin's aura disappeared rapidly. Everyone could clearly feel it and fell into a daze. Tianjin's status in the Tian family was extremely high. After all, his father was the second elder of the Tian family. Tianyang, how dare you destroy my son's cultivation? At this moment, the second elder of the Tian family, who was sitting in the VIP seats, could no longer sit still. He roared and circulated the true origin cultivation of the enlightened Qi realm. He smashed the table in front of him and leaped up. Bullying others with your power. You even poisoned a brother from the same family who posed no threat to you. I don't care about this anymore. Tianyang could not be bothered with the second elder of the Tian family. In the next moment, the meridians in Tianjin's limbs were completely destroyed. Tianjin could not even tremble. His brain could no longer control his limbs. Not only was his dantian destroyed, he would never be able to achieve anything in the martial path. Even his limbs were destroyed. Everyone's hearts trembled. Tianyang, the young master of the Tian family, was not only strong, but his heart was also cold and decisive. This child's temperament and talent are excellent. If he survives this, he will definitely become a great person in the future. In the spectator stands, an old man with an aged face said in a serious tone. Hearing this, the hearts of the crowd trembled once again. Even the prestigious elder Hiroshi in the Arctic state said so. Tianyang's future was limitless. However, would he be able to survive this tribulation? Not only did Tian Yu and the great elder of the Tian family want to deal with him, but even the second elder of the Tian family wanted to make a move. Not only did you destroy my son's cultivation, but you also destroyed his limbs. Tianyang, you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Seeing Tianjin's limbs being destroyed, the second elder of the Tian family roared with bloodshot eyes. In the next moment, the true yuan of the bright Qi realm surged and turned into a true yuan ribbon, rushing towards Tianyang. Humph! Sensing the true yuan ribbon, Tianyang snorted coldly. The killing sword in his hand spun, and a sword Qi shot out. Boom! The sword Qi and the true yuan ribbon clashed in midair, creating a loud explosion. The second elder of the Tian family, who was at the bright Qi realm, attacked in anger. But Tianyang's sword Qi easily dissolved it. Everyone was stunned, but Tianyang's hands did not stop moving. Destroyed dantian, crippled cultivation, broken meridians, and crippled limbs. That's not enough. You don't need to keep your life anymore. Tianyang's indifferent voice rang out. Hearing this, everyone trembled and focused their attention on Tianyang. Could it be that in front of so many higher-ups of the Tian family, Tianyang is going to had Tianjin been beheaded? Pucci. Chapter 157. Tianjin was dead? Looking at the scene unfolding in the arena, everyone was dumbfounded. That was the son of the Tian family's second elder, Tianjin. Even if his talent wasn't good enough, he had just used the immortal piercing poison to give Tianyang a reason to kill him. But he was still Tianjin. The Tian family's second elder's cultivation had reached the 7th level of the clear Qi realm. In the Arctic state, he was considered a powerhouse. Tianyang, who was only at the 3rd or 4th level of the clear Qi realm, dared to kill the Tian family's second elder's son? It's over, it's over. Tianyang actually killed the Tian family's second elder's son, and his father, the Tian family's patriarch, has been missing for a long time. This time, the Tian family's second elder will definitely not let him off. Without the support of the elders, even if Tianyang still has the position of the young patriarch, it's impossible for him to become the patriarch. In the audience, an old man said with an ugly expression. He was an old friend of the missing Tian family's patriarch, and he also hoped that Tianyang could inherit the position of the Tian family's patriarch. But now, it seemed impossible. After all, Tianyang even killed Tianjin without any fear. Unlike the old man, Tian Yu was so excited that she was on the verge of going insane. What did Tianyang do? He even killed the Tian family's second elder's son, Tianjin. The Tian family's second elder was already biased towards the great elder, and now that Tianjin was dead, the Tian family's second elder would definitely side with the great elder. In that case, more than 60% of the Tian family's upper echelons were under the great elder's command. Without the support of these upper echelons, even if Tianyang was the missing Tian family's patriarch's son, how could he inherit the position of the patriarch? This Tianyang is really an idiot. But the more idiotic he is, the better it is for me. Tian Yu was so excited that his face was flushed, and his breathing became heavier. Then, he looked at Tianyang, who was dealing with the Tian family's second elder, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. Tianyang actually dared to kill Tianjin. Second elder, we can't let Tianyang go. How could Tianyang survive the attack of a clear Qi realm expert? Tian Yu sneered in her heart. On the other hand, Tian Qianqian's face was extremely pale when she saw this scene. She had never imagined that Tianyang would be so decisive in killing Tianjin in front of so many people. Even the second elder has made his move. Cousin is finished this time. Tian Qianqian's face was deathly pale, while Ling Yuhan, Yi Zhanling, and Yang Xiong, who were seated in the VIP seats, didn't show any changes in their expressions. They did not think that the second elder of the Tian family, who was at the 7th level of the Bright Qi realm, could threaten Tianyang. After all, even Xuekong, who was at the 8th stage of the Bright Qi realm, had been killed by Tianyang. Tianyang, since you dared to kill my son, then you will pay for it with your life. Mid-grade dark class, Steel Soul Spear. The second elder of the Tian family roared. His interspatial bag trembled, and a long spear appeared in his hand. As the second elder of the Tian family infused his true yuan into the spear, the long spear emitted a shocking light. Seeing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. He could see that the long spear was a mid-grade treasure weapon that was not inferior to the Wind Flame sword. But in terms of mid-grade treasures, what could be stronger than Tianyang's killing sword? As for the Steel Soul Spear, it was even more laughable. After Tianyang's Flowing Cloud Sword, he had modified it, and it could easily defeat the Steel Soul Spear. Therefore, Tianyang made his move the moment the Steel Soul Spear was unleashed. Flowing Cloud Sword concept, Tianyang roared. His true yuan, which was at the peak of the 4th level of the Bright Qi realm, was completely unleashed. The killing sword in his hand glowed brightly, and a cloud-like halo appeared around Tianyang's body. Then, it was infused into Tianyang's sword move. In the next moment, the Steel Soul Spear and the killing sword collided violently. Boom! A terrifying sound exploded from the center of the two's battle, accompanied by a powerful shock wave that forced everyone back a few steps. Waves of powerful impact traveled along the killing sword. In response, Tianyang did not even bother to use his true yuan to neutralize it. This little bit of impact could easily kill a 4th-level Bright Qi realm cultivator. But to his Flood Dragon body, it was not much better than scratching an itch. But to the second elder of the Tian family, Tianyang's sword move was incomparably terrifying. Damn it! How could this little bastard use a martial technique of this level? The second elder of the Tian family's face was extremely ugly. He could never have imagined that Tianyang's sword move would be so tyrannical. Even if it was him, after using the dark mid-class martial technique, the Steel Soul Spear, in a fit of rage, he was almost sent flying. Moreover, his internal organs were in chaos. If not for the true yuan protection of the 7th level of the Bright Qi realm, the second elder of the Tian family would have been injured by this sword move. But even so, the second elder of the Tian family was extremely uncomfortable. His thumb and forefinger were in extreme pain from the impact. The two of them retreated like lightning after colliding. Tianyang's expression was normal, but the second elder of the Tian family's face was ugly. Seeing this scene, everyone in the audience was stunned. What happened? Looking at the situation, The second elder of the Tian family was at a disadvantage in this battle? Not only did he not lose to a 7th-level Bright Chi Realm cultivator, he even had a slight advantage. Tianyang, this young master of the Tian family that I have never seen before, is not like what others say. Princess Ling Ling sat in the VIP seats, her beautiful eyes overflowing with light. As the pearl of the royal family, Princess Ling Ling had seen many people, but none of them could attract her attention. However, Tianyang was too lazy to think about this. Instead, he sneered and clenched the killing sword in his hand, intending to continue the battle. The collision of swords just now was just a warm-up. Tianyang did not even use his strongest killing move, the Setting Sun sword art, which he had obtained not long ago from the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. The Setting Sun sword art was an Earth low-class martial technique, but it was much stronger than the Drifting Cloud sword art. With Tianyang's sword Dao cultivation, although the Setting Sun sword art was difficult to understand, after practicing it for a few hours, Tianyang had more or less grasped it. Although he did not reach the peak of the second stage like he did in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, he was still in the middle stage of the second stage. Once he used it, Tianyang was sure that the Steel Soul Spear would not last a second before it was broken. "Old man, weren't you very arrogant before?" Holding the killing sword in his hand, Tianyang looked at the gloomy second elder of the Tian family in front of him. He smiled faintly and circulated his true yuan at the peak of Clear Chi Realm. "How about this? I won't bully you anymore. You, Tianyu, don't you dislike me and want to steal my position as the young clan leader? How about this, you and the second elder come at me together. If I lose, the position of the family leader will be yours." Tianyang smiled faintly, then looked at the first elder who was sitting at the head of the VIP seats and smirked. "Of course, if the first elder is also unhappy with me, he can come in and fight me together with Tianyu and the second elder. Don't worry, no one will say that it's unfair." Tianyang smiled, but the words that came out of his mouth silenced the entire Tian family's martial arts field. Not only did he humiliate the second elder of the Tian family, but he also wanted Tianyu and the first elder of the Tian family to fight him together? Everyone could only describe Tianyang's words with one word. Chapter 158. Arrogant. This was the only impression everyone had of Tianyang, and it was also the most direct impression. They did not understand what made Tianyang so arrogant. Not only did he want to slap the second elder of the Tian family, but he also wanted to slap Tianyu, the first elder of the Tian family. As for Tianyu, he was only at the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. The strength that Tianyang had displayed before was enough to kill him easily. However, the first elder of the Tian family was different. The first elder of the Tian family was at the 9th level of the Bright Chi realm, standing at the top of the pyramid of the Blizzard State. In the entire Blizzard State, only the leader of the Soaring Cloud sect, the leader of the Blood Soul sect, the leader of the Wolf Tiger sect, and the leader of the Earthen Way sect could be above the first elder of the Tian family. Tianyang actually dared to provoke such a person? Why? You don't dare? Tianyang did not know what everyone was thinking, nor was he interested in knowing. At this moment, he just looked at the first elder and Tianyu and smiled slightly. These simple words were harsh to the ears of Tianyu and the first elder of the Tian family. Tianyu and the first elder of the Tian family looked extremely ugly. The family competition had reached this stage. It was definitely not going to continue. Originally, it was not a big deal. However, this family competition would determine the patriarch of the Tian family. Originally, the first elder of the Tian family had a good control over the Tian family. Now, when he wanted to completely control the family, Tianyang came out of nowhere. Therefore, the Tian family's first elder's face was extremely gloomy, as if water was about to drip out of it. Tianyang, don't think that you are invincible just because you can withstand a few moves from the second elder. To deal with you, I don't need my father's help. Just the second elder and I alone are enough to deal with you. After all, Tianyu was still young. He could not withstand such provocation and contempt. He immediately jumped onto the stage and looked at Tianyang with anger. In response, Tianyang just smiled faintly and did not bother to say a word. The real focus was still on the first elder of the Tian family. As Yu said, Yu and second brother are more than enough to deal with you. The Tian family's great elder coldly said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. Obviously, the Tian family's great elder didn't intend to make a move. Tianyang was not surprised. After all, this was the family competition and there were many guests. The current Tianyang hasn't reached the point where the Tian family's big elder would throw away his face and fight to the death with Tianyang. Tianyang understood, but he was still a little disappointed. In the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, he could have broken through to the 5th level of the Radiant Chi realm. However, to avoid attracting attention, he suppressed it. It would have been better if he hadn't done so. Now that his foundation had stabilized, he didn't need to make any breakthroughs for the time being. However, it would be much more difficult for him to make any breakthroughs. When he was in the Soaring Cloud sect, Tianyang had already opened up his Sea of Qi. However, he lacked an opportunity to truly open up his Sea of Qi and break through to the 5th level of the Radiant Qi realm. Tianyang had a premonition. Although he didn't have many treasures like the Dragon Transformation Pool, he had suppressed it for so long. Once he broke through, he would definitely reach the peak of the 5th level of the Radiant Qi realm. However, this opportunity was too difficult to find. From the Soaring Cloud sect until now, Tianyang hadn't found any opportunity. However, in the battle with the second elder of the Tian family, Tianyang found it. A fierce battle, a great battle, and even a battle to the death. The more Tianyang was forced to fight, the more opportunities there would be. However, there was a reason that would make the second elder vomit blood and die. The second elder of the Tian family was too weak. He couldn't even fight a fierce battle. Therefore, Tianyang wanted to drag Tianyu and the Tian family's great elder down. However, the great elder didn't make a move. However, that was enough. Once he finished off the two guys in front of him, the great elder would have to make a move even if he didn't. Come on. Holding the killing sword, Tianyang looked at the two people in front of him quietly. He smiled faintly as the true yuan in his body surged. However, between his eyebrows, there was no trace of seriousness. On the contrary, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes that was extremely eye-catching. You're courting death. Seeing this scene, Tianyu couldn't help but roar. Purple Cloud Palm. It's actually the Purple Cloud Palm. That's the top martial technique of the Purple Cloud sect, an upper-grade mystic class palm technique. Tianyu actually used such a high-level palm technique the moment he made a move. Outside the field, seeing the purple cloud condensed in Tianyu's hand, someone couldn't help but exclaim. Tianyang heard this and narrowed his eyes slightly. An upper-grade mystic class martial technique? Looks like Tianyu's dread of him was not just a little. However, even if he used an upper-grade mystic class martial technique, what use would it be in front of Tianyang? Upper-grade mystic class. Cloud-piercing spear. At this moment, the Tian family's second elder also moved. His figure flashed and immediately appeared in front of Tianyang. The long spear in his hand exploded with a dazzling light as he charged directly at Tianyang. The long spear contained a terrifying penetrating power. Although it had not yet landed on Tianyang's body, it was as if it could pierce through Tianyang's true yuan. A clear Qi realm cultivator really can't be underestimated. Tianyang chuckled in his heart. Then, he swung the killing sword in his hand. Let me show you the true flowing cloud essence. At this moment, Tianyu's purple cloud palm had also arrived in front of Tianyang. Boom! The purple cloud palm and the piercing cloud spear were both upper-grade mystic class martial technique. In addition, Tian Yu and the Tian family's second elder's cultivation were both higher than Tianyang's. However, in front of Tianyang's sword, their attacks were completely useless. One sword had blocked the two extremely powerful killing moves. The illusory and difficult to find, but at the most critical moment, the terrifying martial technique essence made countless people's hair stand on end. Tianyang actually comprehended the martial technique essence of a sword move. This is something that only the strongest martial arts geniuses can do. It's said that Tianyang only awakened a low-grade yellow-class martial spirit, and his martial arts talent is definitely not that great. But now, it seems that it's not entirely true. The crowd sighed. Although this sword only burst out for a short moment, it had stunned everyone. In the middle of the field, Tianyang held the killing sword in his hand, smiled at the two people in front of him, and softly said a few words. It seems that your killing moves are not that great either. Now, it's my turn. Tianyang's light voice fell into the ears of Tian Yu and the Tian family's second elder. Their faces instantly changed. Tianyang had not used his full strength before, but he was already so powerful. Once he used his full strength, how powerful would he be? Retreat quickly! The Tian family's second elder shouted angrily. However, how could Tianyang's dragon-subduing steps give the two of them a chance to retreat? Don't worry, it won't be too late to leave after watching this move. Tianyang smiled. Then, the killing sword in his hand burst out with a touch of orange light. A vast and majestic aura filled the entire area. A faint sunset appeared in front of everyone's eyes.